Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round 6 of this year's ASR Supercars Championship. And it's a late calendar change. You're expecting to see a different looking circuit to the one on your screen, but the late mail is in, and we've actually got a double header in the Sunshine State for the next 2 rounds. Queensland Raceway tonight, and in 3 weeks on from now, it will be the streets of Townsville. This circuit was on the calendar last year. There's a couple of talking points from some of those events last year that we'll get to in the not too distant future. One driver that found himself in a bit of trouble is looking for some redemption tonight, and I'm sure he will be able to produce that. There he is on screen, essentially, the man in question. And Benjamin Rhodey Rhodes is in here as well, and he knows all about that incident last time out. And Rhodey, that's one Dane Liccardo looking for some redemption at a circuit that he probably didn't perform at his best last year.
No, I know that it's going to be back again for a Supercars round. Just touching on the track for a second, I am happy to see this track back. It's we're going to go into the track in detail in a little bit, but it's the sort of unofficial PBF testing track, home track advantage kind of deal, and we all quite like the track, all the PBF drivers, so happy to see it back. But yeah, no, Dane was not flying his best colours last year, getting into Lime Mitch, which unfortunately just topped off was the icing on the cake for his year last year, which unfortunately saw him dropped from the early part of the season. He did manage to claw his way back through the Dev Series. He put in a strong and a clean performance, and was actually, as a good sign of faith, was offered the loose sim sport drive at the back end of last season, and obviously he's back in a full-time capacity this year. But yeah, he's going to have some memories of last year, and he's not going to be looking to repeat them.
No, definitely not. He will definitely look to redeem himself tonight, and as you said, he got offered that loose sim sport drive at the back end of last year, which essentially honed the path for him back into the main game for this year. And since he's come out from the ERT stable and into the fold of CRE, he's not been too bad, so we'll be keeping an eye on him tonight. We're also going to be keeping an eye on our 2 championship protagonists at the top of the standings, because as we go over to the driver's standings right now, it is a very, very tight margin there, Rhodey. Just 9 points between Will Devonish and Kurt Stenberg. Of course, the drop round not being factored in just yet. There's still a couple of rounds to go before that gets pulled out. But elsewhere down the table, a couple of other drivers a bit close for comfort there as well. Tim Redmond and Brendan Ross. There's about a 60-odd point gap there between the two of them. And you come down to Lewis Wedding and Brenton Foley. Only 40 points between the two of them. Termo and Daniel Cox, they're tied. Termo has the advantage because he has a much higher finish in one of the races competed so far. And then, of course, you can't count out Luke Rosella. He's very, very fast and making his return after a couple of rounds absent. And look out for him tonight as well. But, Rhodey, a lot still to play out. And at the top of the standings, it's game on.
Exactly, yeah. Championship's getting a lot tighter now, obviously. Benefiting from being a bit cleaner at the first part of the season, and Kurt's superior pace is starting to come back in now. We're worried a little early we might actually see Kurt tonight, but he is now in the server. He is currently sitting in 12th in the practice session, and that won't be his outright pace, I don't believe. But yeah, so that'll be a tight fight between those two again. Timmy, good to see him running strong. He's still a championship contender, but he's going to need a little bit to go his way. And 4th and 5th, I'm going to keep talking about it all season because they want to keep talking about it all season. The second slowest driver in Supercars, and the team that's just out there to plot around. Not only have they got the drivers 4th and 5th in the drivers' standings, they're also pretty close to the lead of the team's points.
Yeah, they aren't too far away, and if anything I've been seeing going on in the live chat is to be believed they must be running out of money because there's been a whole bunch of sponsor plugs going on for all the sponsors that are on those cars. Also to the point of saying that I think GB Galvanizing, if it's good for Dale Wood, it's good for you, I think was one of the highlight ones that was on there because there is some GB Galvanizing stickers on the car. The main one was the Vodafone stuff. So if they're having to delve into sponsor plugs, they're running out of money because they're obviously not thrilled, the sponsors, with 4th and 5th in the standings. So I don't know what they've got to complain about. But then we go over the page, as you rightly pointed out, Rhodey, 8 points at the top of the standings between CRE Race Engineering and Pixel Sim Sports. So you were right. There's not a lot in it, and you're going to keep talking about it all year because they're right in the thick of it.
Yeah, Pixel Sim Sports through three iterations, obviously, is Loose Sim Sport and further beyond. Lewis has always felt he's been the bridesmaids, a lot of things. He did very recently, say 2020, I believe it was, get cheated out of some teams' points by what he believed was an incorrect points setup, which he's not still salty about at all, and he won't go around for 5 minutes if you bring it up with him. And I suppose, Will and Sarah, they don't really have their shortage of pace and performance. They're doing quite well, obviously, the team this year with, it's 9 drivers all up at this point. With Will and Termo, it shows well for Termo's promotion to the lead team. He's not quite doing the pace he wants to, but he's doing enough for the team's points at this point. And Will's second fiddle has more been in the driver's standings, obviously, with people like Foley in the early years, and then with Kurt Stenberg and Grisella coming through. Will's been playing back there, but he's sort of having to double across because, he's got a very tight fight in the drivers' championships, and he's also going to equally tight fight in the teams.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, in terms of team standings for the CRE Race Engineering guys, Will Devenish has been at the top end and trying to accrue the majority of the points. I mean, you look back to the standings we saw just a few moments ago with Will Devenish being at the top, Termo sort of being mid-table in the top 10. Termo is definitely no slouch, but he's had a few odd results here and there that have just managed to swing the momentum back towards Pixel Sim Sports just a little bit. So he needs to pick up a couple of those performances. Good to see he was actually 7th overall in the running order for the practice session that's just concluding now, actually ahead of Lewis Wedding by about 1/10 of a second, and then he was about a 10th and a half behind Brendan Ross. So expecting that might be a nice little entertaining sort of top 10 fight tonight, just to see how everything unfolds. We are about to go into qualifying. We're just waiting on our clocks to resynchronize and all the drivers to get themselves together. And it's a twin sprint format. So same as Barbagallo, there's 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races as well. Of course, they are paired off together. So Quali 1, Race 1, Quali 1 and Quali 2 and Race 2. And it looks like we are getting a little bit of on-track activity now. There we are. A few drivers starting to just to roll down the lane and get themselves. Oh, there's been a little bit of contact there coming out of pit lane. Looks like was that Higginson and Liccardo maybe just got together a little bit there. I just caught the last little tail end of that. That looked a little bit strange. Let's see if we can pick that up on the replay. As we were waiting on drivers to come out. Who was it? And, yep, there it is.
Well, it's a tight pit lane at Queensland. It's not necessarily the tightest on the calendar. I think Phillip Island just has it beat. So obviously that's not the Supercars coming this year, but it will be coming in the Enduro Cup later this year. But still a pretty tight pit lane at Queensland Raceway, and it's a big rush to get out early. I will say, actually, speaking of getting out there at all, I just had a look at the entry and exit logs, and a couple of big hitters not going to be qualifying just based on not being in the session. Brenton Foley has not yet returned, and obviously doesn't have a chance to. Neither is Will Devenish, so we won't see those 2 in qualifying. And I've just seen Joe Mugford has also left the game, so he'll be missing qualifying as well. But it is good to see Joe back. It's been a few rounds since we've last seen him.
Absolutely, he's actually Hans Brunswick now leaving the lane. NZ Snipes is leaving the lane too. So there's a few drivers that. You're right, going to struggle to qualify for this one. Now, I also noticed that Braxton Stancliffe has gone to the track. Now, I'm just having a bit of a look through my notes here, Rhodey. There was a note that he was due to miss qualifying 1 for this round because of previous indiscretion at Barbagallo, where he actually unsafely rejoined the track during Quali 2. So I would say that his time is possibly going to be deleted. And there he is. So he's going to find himself in a little bit of trouble here from the stewards. They're going to delete that time.
Yeah, he will. And Yeah,
Oops,
it
and
is.
speak of the devil, he's off the circuit.
It is. It's still very much something the stewards are capable of doing. Obviously, it's just easier with people that aren't supposed to qualify aren't they're qualifying, because it just means a bit of a reshuffle of the order. But yeah, well, we will see Braxton pop into the order, and might be relevant for us to gauge where he's at on race pace for the upcoming race. It's not going to reflect anything when we actually start. So he'll be starting from the back of the grid, along with those who aren't qualifying.
Yeah, correct. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. So you're right. So Mugford, Devonish, and of course the last one you said was Brenton Foley. So a little bit of a blow there for a few people. Now I'm just keeping an eye out on who is the man on track that's going to set the first lap times here. I believe it's Daniel Cox, or possibly Kurt Stenberg, one of the two. I'm just looking to see who's setting the times. So Stenberg, we're going to get a time from him now. It's a 7.9. Rosella's purple in a couple of sectors at the moment, and I expect to see him jump to the top of the table in the next few moments. In fact, there he goes, 7 flat for Luke Rosella aboard the Synergy Sim Racing Commodore. And there he goes. As the times start to filter in, everybody's actually out there. So importantly, everybody has setting times at the moment. They're all on the track leaving the lane. There's a Kiwi SimSport Commodore off the Automech one off the circuit there. That'd be NZ Snipes. Where's he gone off? Looks like he's gone off at turn 2, or possibly down at turn 3. I'm not quite sure there. Oh, that was Kurt Stenberg going for a bit of an unusual trip in the back of shot there. I think maybe Cheese might have outbraked himself down here at 3. There we go, off the road at 3.
Yeah, it's easy enough to do. It's the longest braking zone on this circuit. You get high speed through turn 2 and a pretty long straight down to turn 3. A few drivers IRL have done that, either got late on the brakes, or I think we've seen a few brake failures or stuck throttles actually coming down that straight as well, which has put people into the tyre barriers in past IRL Supercars meets.
It's a bit of a drama at the moment at the pit exit. There's plenty of drivers that want to get back out onto the circuit having gone for their first runs, but there are also plenty of drivers that were starting flying laps as well. So the pit exit was a pretty busy place in the last sort of 20 seconds. There was cars having to get off the racing line, coming out of the pits very quickly to let other drivers through. Lockie Burke was one of those that was sort of a little bit bobbled by a couple of cars coming out of the lane. You can see there he's not down by much on his own PB at the first sector split, getting a little bit of tow from the Autodesk 00 Commodore Higginson just ahead. Get a second sector split readout this time around. That'll give us an idea if he's improving or not, and he's lost further time. So a little bit of a drama for Burke, and noticing a few drivers now opting to come to the lane for a fresh set of boots having done their run. Lewis Wedding being one of those, currently P15.
Yeah, that's he's 7 seconds off the back of Braxton Sandcliffe, who, as we said, isn't actually qualifying. So he's 9 seconds off the back of the next place car. So that won't be a representative lap. That'll be 10 seconds, suggest either he's gone deep at 3, potentially even gone wide at 2, or had maybe a couple of little errors here or there that he's copped up, or maybe just been impeded or has impeded upon somebody as a result during his lap as well. But we expect to see a slightly better performance from Wedding. It's obviously a banker lap, but it's not going to be his final pace.
No, you're not wrong there. So he's still got some time on the clock to get out for another lap. Lucky Lock goes through and stays in 12th place. You can see a stream of cars slowly starting to exit the lane for another run. Let's get an idea of just how the times are going at the moment. So Luke Rosella got a good margin on top, and I don't think that will be beaten at this point in time. 106.9 for him, and he's comfortably ahead of the train. Behind him is where the interest is. So Brendan Ross is currently set up in pit lane. He is second overall, a 1 minute 7.683, which is not too bad for Rossi. And then Daniel Cox leaving the lane now. That's a big surprise for me. Third place provisionally at the moment, fractionally ahead of Kurt Stenberg. So that's a bit of an interesting second row at the moment, Roddy. And on top of that, a bit of an interesting sort of top, sort of second, third and fourth.
I think what's possibly come from that, Kurt wasn't up the top on pace, whether it's a lack of practice or what it is, I'm not sure. Maybe just a bit of lack of familiarity with the track, and obviously IRL Supercars hasn't been in a few years. Yeah, I believe they both set those laps on their very first flyers. Coxie, Daniel. He was lucky that, or lucky in a way that he came out right behind Stenberg, so he could follow Stenberg around, and also crucially could pick up a toe down the straights. So that's probably how he's managed to just edge out Stenberg like that. Stenberg's not getting the better lap times again. He just had a lose at turn 2, straight across the inside of the track, so he's going to have to come out and go again. Cox has, meanwhile, also just hasn't been improving. And I think a lot of drivers actually have set their quickest laps in like the first minute or two of the session, whether it's... We've seen this with a couple of tracks this year, where you almost want to qualify with a cold car. I remember Nathan Higginson preaching that from the heavens at one of the Super 2 rounds earlier this year, and the benefits of it. And you know what? He was actually right. Cars were actually going faster on cold tyres because the lap was such that you'd cook the tyres by turn 1 anyway. So you use turn 1 to heat the tyre for the rest of the lap rather than overcook the tyre. But yeah, I don't see too many other drivers who actually... There's a couple of drivers that are coming up in pace now, but a lot of them have set those laps early and just can't get back to them again.
Yeah, a few drivers really struggling to get a grip on another lap time, but Lewis Wedding is not looking too bad here. And he goes P2. That's a massive jump for Wedding, and most of that has come in the final 2 sectors. His sector split times in Sector 1 when he went through was 2/10 to the good. That's a massive launch up the order for him and ahead of his teammate as well. So that shifts the balance a little bit in the last 2 minutes or so. Is Wedding pressing on, or is he a little bit down? No, he's backed out of this one. So I think he's comfortable with where he's at the moment. That shuffles a couple of guys down the order. Obviously, the guys we were talking about before. Hans Brunswick has jumped up to P6 in all of this as well. He's in the lane, so he's not going anywhere. He probably won't get another lap in. Lockie Burke's now sharing a row with Dane Liccardo. That's 7th and 8th. Cam Rutledge and Nathan Higginson, the last 2 cars inside the top 10.
Yeah, although we've just had, I think, Turmo jump up to 6th as well. This is it's an interesting arrangement actually. I think with Will out, with Foley out, both 2 good qualifiers, good runners. Obviously, Foley's unofficial home track. No surprise with who's on top, of course. But yeah, for Pixelson to be currently sitting 2nd and 3rd, still got over a minute left in the session. Anything could change. Yeah, and actually I've just seen as well, Cam Rutledge has just split the gap between Kurt Stenberg and Daniel Cox, and not by much.
Wow.
1,000ths quicker than Stenberg.
That is a big, big tick for Cam Rutledge. He's been pumping in the laps for the night during the week. And at the moment, Stenberg's now gone to P2, just ahead of Wedding and Co. But still, Cam's up on his time here, coming down to the first sector split. A little bit of the lock brake coming down into there. Won't be too bad. We're getting some word through on a couple of the issues that are going on. So for Brent Foley, it was actually a game crash for him. And then for Will Devenish, it looks like there's been some sort of failure in the sim rig with the throttle cable, and he's frantically trying to get that repaired at the moment. So, there's definitely some championship implications that are going on here that we're going to have to keep tabs on.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of sim rig failures for people as well, I suppose there's some realistic elements in that. It's modelling what happens with real race cars and equipment failures, but it's not ideal with the sim rig, but it's normally a bit easy to fix. But no, so in the middle of all that as well, one thing I was going to touch on, although the order's reshuffled a little bit, Dane Liccardo has now popped up to 5th. Cam is still the fastest series runners currently. I think that will stay that way. Actually, technically with Dane bumping up, Dane is now the fastest series car, but he's not the SBRE direct
Sorry,
team.
Sorry, Rhodey. We've had another rollover. Lockie Lock has done it for the 2nd week in a row.
Well, if anybody was going to do it, I've just... We're going to the replay here. We're going to the replay here to have a look, because he did this at Barbagallo at the last corner. He got all 2 wheels up on the side. He's there. Well, look at that. Whoops, and up she goes and over she goes. It's almost the same sort of speed accident that he had at Barbagallo. Almost it's
identical.
Same speed, same sort of car energy almost, but it's very odd because we've driven the Barbagallo last turn curb in a few different series, and like I've rolled mostly anything off of it. I think I've got a good shot of me rolling a Dev Series, a Supercar, I think last year, the year before, back when we were in the VFs. And obviously, I got too much on the curb in Super 2, Super 3 earlier this season, and also in the Summer Series. I never pictured the turn 4 curb at Queensland as being a place to roll a car, and it doesn't look that steep, but something about the car inertia or whatever it was, the way he's tucked into that corner, and it's just picked it up enough that the center of gravity has taken over, and over she's toppled. So 2 for 2 for Lockie Lock, and probably not the streak anyone wants to be aiming for. But yeah, the way that's qualifying has ended out in the end, no surprises. Luke Rosella's on top. Brendan Ross has actually jumped up to second at the end there.
That's a good time from Rossi actually there as well.
That is, yeah. With Kurt Stenberg now sitting in third, Lewis Wedding in fourth, Daniel Cox in fifth, Dan Liccardo in sixth, so he's held on pretty well and is the leader of the CRE affiliated drivers. Cam Rutledge is the leader of the CRE team drivers in seventh, with Termo in eighth, Hans Brunswick. Now, we haven't seen Hans, I think, for a little bit, so it's good to see him back in the saddle again. He's up in ninth, and Lockie Burke ran out the top 10, which is a nice little 1-2 there, or a 9-10 there for the AAR drivers.
Yep, you're not wrong. There's a bit of a mixed up order there in this one, and we weren't expecting a couple of items there with the likes of Foley and Devonish being out of business as well. So they're going to get back into the server in the next couple of moments and sort out a few things, and then hopefully we'll be going racing again. But Righty, let's take a look at Queensland Raceway while we wait for everything to take place here. So we go to our track overview with thanks to Google Earth Studio, and on we hone towards the east coast of Australia, in from the capital of Brisbane and then out to this place called Ipswich, the Paperclip of Queensland Raceway. It's only 6 turns, Righty. That's the important thing. Only 6 turns, 4 to the right, 2 to the left, but very, very important. Every corner at this circuit is a little bit different compared to the one that preceded it.
Yeah, so turns 1 and 2, fairly sort of open corners, but turn 1 a bit less 90 degrees, turn 2 a bit more than 90 degrees. Different pace as well, and different considerations with how you can attack that corner. Turn 1 is dominated by the pit entry line, which as of this year has actually been automated with the cut that we were policing last year. So it's hopefully going to solve us spending 5 hours post-race going through everybody's laps to make sure that everybody has behaved. But yeah, then through turn 2, a bit tighter corner. It's a fast corner, but not as fast as you feel it is in the car. So you spend a lot of time waiting to get on the throttle to not wash wide. Then you got the run down past sector 1 market and turn 3, which is a bit of a double apexer, but also a bit of a not a double apexer. It's a really tricky corner, and the racing line through there is a bit of a mystery. There's also a nice bit of exit curb on the outside for where the short circuit cuts in that cars have died off of IRL. I think a Mini has flipped off of that, and a Supercar has tried to as well from memory. And I know a couple of guys have had laps and runs ruined by that curb. Turn 4 we just saw. I didn't picture that as a roll spot, but nope. Lockie Lock, ever the optimist, has proved us wrong. Turn 5, probably the slowest or one of the slowest corners on the circuit, but it is still a fairly open corner. You use it as to get a run down the next straight. Same sort of thing. You want to take as much curb as possible, but again, too much curb, you're going to ruin your run. And then down to turn 6, another sort of double apexer, but not quite the same profile as up at turn 3. And also a juggle to know where to apex and where to throttle that one, because it affects your run down the start finish straight. Yeah,
spot on. It's a good summary actually of how this circuit is, and as we said just a few seconds ago, each corner is a little bit different to the one that preceded it. They're all different radii. They all, when you turn through, like you go through turn 1, for example, at a much higher speed compared to what you do at turn 2, and they might feel the same, but the actual, the radius of the corner is very, very different. So it requires a different sort of approach and a different sort of turn-in point. And then you get to places like turn 3, very, very hard stop, and it's not a completely sort of like a 180 degree corner. Like it's got like it sort of cuts back in, so it's not completely, circular at one end, whereas turn 6 on the other side of the circuit is almost like a full 180 degree corner, and it's nice and symmetrical all the way around. So there's different approaches to different parts of this circuit. I mean, if people would actually draw Queensland Raceway, they'd probably make every turn sort of very, very similar. If you were to draw it on a piece of paper, but in reality, far from the case. I've actually inherited a couple extra drivers as well throughout the from the warm. It looks like Steve Warwick, a little bit of a late bloomer into this one. He's going to jump in, so he's actually going to be down the back of the field as well, along with Will Devonish and Joe Mugford, and of course Brenton Foley when he gets himself back in. He's actually busy conducting the drivers' briefing at the moment, as he always does. So that'll be it'll give us a 20-car field for the racing time. I actually factored Brendan Ross as well. Looks like he's going to be coming, so we could end up with 21.
Yeah, and that's pretty strong. We've had 20 plus, I think, most of the season. So good to see that running. Unfortunately, there's no wild cards tonight. Just haven't with the week. I think most of the admin team haven't really had the opportunity to sit down and view some of the drivers. But that said, there are still a lot of Super 2 drivers currently running in the field. The best of them currently sitting up in, I say up in, actually, I've got to go down a bit on the list. P9 is our best Super 2 runner in Nathan Higginson. Good to see a couple of those guys who are actually doubling across both rounds this season. NZ Snipes as well, actually. Normally, with normal circumstances, he'd have a chance to preview the track from the week before, but with what's happened, he's actually as fresh as everyone else for a change, which probably evens out the playing field because he gets a bit of extra advantage, I reckon, having going to sit there and watch people lap the track. From all angles for 3 hours on a Friday night. You don't get the same experience as you would if you were out there lapping it for those 3 hours, but you still get a better, clearer, and you get some more controlled insight than any other supercars drivers do that are just running supercars by itself.
Yeah, correct. And that's an important point as well. I mean, usually we do offer up some of the wild cards positions to a number of drivers throughout the week. But the other part of the argument too was a little with the late change as well on the calendar. It actually didn't give us a fair evaluation of how everybody was going to perform at this track, considering that the one the Super 2 drivers ran was actually a different track to begin with anyway, or a completely different circuit. So it's probably a smart call, I think, from the stewards just to sort of leave the wildcard situation alone for a round and just wait and see how everything unfolds. And I think there's actually some really good Super 2 drivers that are doing a fairly good job at the moment in that series. I think Zach Brown has had to decline a couple of wildcard invitations already. He's been very, very solid. Phil Boak, we know we saw him last time out at Barbagallo. It turned in a really, really good performance. There was also Taipan, who'd done some really good laps. Unfortunately, had a couple of mistakes in that race, and I actually feel really sorry for Taipan Reddy because I know he's got a new puppy he's had for a couple of months now, and he'd organised for somebody to babysit the puppy for the night so he could race, and he had a dead set shocker. So I feel quite sorry for him.
The advantage for him, as much as it would have been hard to take the time away from the puppy, because puppies just turn us all into melted puddles of human on the floor. Mm-hmm. As bad as that would have been to take time off the puppy, I think he has more than once had issues with the puppy finding itself in his pedals or the like, just hanging out down there, just chilling how puppies do, and getting in the way of him trying to drive on the sim. I think once or twice I've had him pull off in a race or a session or some sort because the puppy's just done a puppy and has gotten in the way. But yeah, no, it's a shame. And there's a couple of drivers that haven't got the chance to wildcard yet that I know are gunning for it. I'm not looking to start anything controversial. There's a couple of drivers who aren't currently eligible for a wildcard that are looking to get one as well. But that's as far as I'll say on that.
Yep, I know precisely who you're talking about with regards to that one. And I believe some of those people are actually already painting Super 2 cars because they're of the opinion that they're probably going to be promoted at some point, which is the way the Dev Series points is actually structured in such a way that if you're in the Super 3 category and you find yourself mixing it up quite regularly with the front runners, you'll find yourself up that point end of the field. I guess to keep in mind too with that one as well, I mean, it's only been one round since a number of those drivers have actually raced. So you probably need to see a couple of rounds of behaviour before you really get an understanding of how good people are and if they need to be promoted or not. But we'll see what happens in about 2 weeks' time when the field heads to Townsville. That will be the real kicker after that one.
Yeah.
I actually just noticed, I was looking at all the drivers just leaving the Discord to go off to their their respective channels, and I think I've seen Lockie Locks now renamed himself to Lockie Sir Rolls a Lot. So I'm glad that I'm glad that somebody's got a sense of humour, because if they don't, I think they were going to cry.
I think he's had a few different name changes across the season, referencing stuff he has or hasn't been able to do. But yeah, he has also mentioned having to be sponsors upside down, which I think is I'm not sure if it actually happened, but I think it was an approach that I think it was BJR were looking at doing in the early 2000s.
I think they did, didn't they?
I think they might have in the end. Yeah,
I'm pretty damn sure they did. But I think now I expect to see a livery DDS file landing in my inbox overnight with Lockie Lock with something plastered on the bottom of that car. Because I think he's right. He's actually mentioned in the live chat, thought it might go quicker upside down. But the answer, Rody, you and I know exactly what that is. It's 2 letters, and it's 1 word, and it's no.
No. Like there are some cars on AMS that, because of the way that they're built, that you can drive them upside down. I think it might have been the F3 cars at one point. We were doing a play around night, and somebody managed to flip them and drive them around upside down, and they went about as fast as they would the regular way around. But no, Supercars aren't one of them, and obviously IRL. I think you're looking at. I think there are a few cars out there that are built in such a way that the bodywork is entirely within their wheels vertically, so that they can be flipped, like the sort of toy cars you see that do that sort of stuff. But otherwise, not advised. Also, just generally would advise it until they start putting old aero engines into cars again, because those are the only piston engines I know of that are intentionally designed to be operating inverted. Because obviously fighter planes at the era had to do that.
That's right. Were there? Remember the old? There was a thing that they were talking about ages and ages ago about Formula One cars that can drive upside down in tunnels, and other cars that were generating a whole bunch of downforce that they could drive upside down in tunnels and stuff. But of course, the whole argument is twofold, right? One, you've got to find a tunnel to use, right? And then secondly, you've got to have an engine that can survive that long upside down, because that's what happens with oil in the sump. The oil drains to the bottom of the engine, and then it gets picked up by the pickup and dragged back to the top, and you've got to find a way of harvesting the oil to then continue to feed the engine. So in theory, you need a completely different engine to do it going upside down. But that's why all these things are just theory.
Yeah, like even with the dry sump system, it's still gravity fed, so you need the engine to be right way up. So you're talking aero engine technology to do that. Like the other thing, the third part as well, is you can tell somebody that you can do it, but you're going to need serious cojones to actually want to willingly drive a car upside down, because F1 cars are designed to crash, but it doesn't mean people are intentionally wanting to crash them. And to get a tunnel that's got a smooth enough curvature for you to get up there without bottoming the car out, you're going to have to fall a long way if you do fall. So like the only time I've seen cars actually drive upside down is much more pedestrian cars at much slower speeds and much smaller tunnels. I believe Jeremy Clarkson a few years ago took a Ford Focus through some sewer tunnels somewhere in Europe, and actually, it managed to basically roll the car, but it kind of went up the wall, then fell off the roof, but had enough momentum that it fell back onto its wheels again. If he was going any slower, he would have pancaked that car. Yeah,
I remember that episode vividly. And actually, there's some sad news during the week as well, that they're going to stop production of the Ford Focus, I think, in 2025, which is actually a bit of a shame, because I've actually got one. It's actually my second Ford Focus that I've had. I actually had the XR5 for a good chunk of time, and I've actually got an LZ Focus Sport with all the options and stuff in it as well. It was actually a really nice car to drive, nice and smooth, good fuel economy and everything, and a bit of a disappointing thing to see, because it's actually quite a nice car, the Focus, but I'd imagine they're going to be replaced by something electric, and I think they'll probably wrap cars like the Fiesta, the Focus, and I think what's currently the Puma into some sort of car that will they'll probably or electric car that'll encompass all three from 2025. But I think a lot of it, with all the emissions things and things that are going on at the moment with electrification, that's probably where they expect themselves to go. And I won't be surprised to see something change in the next couple of years with the demise of the Focus. But a little bit of a sad day for the fact that the Focus has been around for the better part of 25 years, I think it is now. And unfortunately, like the Falcon nameplate, is going to meet a death now. Yeah,
the Focus sort of carried on, at least in racing, it carried on post Sierra days as the rally car, and I think they're still
now
now they've moved to the Fiesta, for the smaller engine class of rallying. But Yeah, we're going to wander on for a bit. I will actually just referencing the live chat for a second. Taipan actually turned around and mentioned the Americans spent millions of dollars developing pens that worked in space. So even something simple as pen, you didn't realize was gravity fed till you actually think about it. So there's a lot of work that has to go into making things work outside of the way they're supposed to.
I know what the Americans' response to developing pens to work in space would have been, Rhodey. It's called a grey lead pencil.
That's pencil.
That's probably
pencil would have been the much easier option, but that's probably the easy way around it. Maybe even whiteboard markers because they'll just all work off of a sponge. But...
Oh yeah, well that'll be an interesting one with whiteboard markers because of how the technology behind it. But I think the grey lead pencil, as much as old school as it actually is, I think that's probably the only real viable option. Anyway, here we go. Race 12 of the 2022 ASR Supercars Championship is not too far from getting underway. Grid of 21 cars, just waiting on a couple of drivers to make it out to the grid. Actually, just waiting on Lewis Wedding. There he is. And away we go for the formation lap, Rhodey.
Yeah, so starting from pole, not really a big surprise. He's up there again. Luke Rosella for Trinity Sim Racing, obviously very strong performance in qualifying, and he's going to be the man to beat in race 1 tonight. Starting alongside him, a bit of a surprise, Brendan Ross of Pixel Sim Sports, I think the highest we've seen a Pixel Sim Sports car in qualifying so far this year, with Kurt Stenberg now relegated to third as a result of the strong performance from Brendan Ross. Fourth is Lewis Wedding, the second of the Pixel Sim Sports cars. This is going to so far do well for them in the team's points, with Daniel Cox in fifth, the cover car for today's stream. Dane Liccardo running out of sixth place, the first of the CRE affiliated cars, with Cam Rutledge for CRE Motorsport starting from seventh. Termo, the lead of the main CRE drivers in eighth CRE Race Engineering, with Hans Brunswick in ninth, leading his AAR teammate in Lockie Burke for 10th place. 11th is Nathan Higginson, nearly in the top 10, still our best running Super 2 driver in the field, with Steve Burko in 12th, good little tight bunch of CRE cars at the top end of the field. Lockie Lock, another CRE car, in 13th for Liquid 2 Racing, with Cheese in 14th, the first of the Kiwis, second of the Kiwis with Higginson included. Fifth is NZ Snipes, another one of the Kiwi cars, the team's Hannaford division, with Corey McFarlane in 16th, Team Mustford's AAR. 17th is Joe Mugford, TriStar Racing. Good to see him back on the grid again. He does need some more sponsors on that car though. With Will Devonish in 18th, obviously missing qualifying. Also missing qualifying is Brenton Foley for PB Engineering from 19th. Steve Warwick, who jumped in the warm-up, starting out of 20th for the Warwick Racing team. And Braxton Stancliffe has actually taken his grid spot up at the back of the grid where he was supposed to qualify to begin with, and will be starting from 21st.
He is indeed, and he's the last car to pull into position here as we wait on the lights to start this race. Here we go for race number 12 of the 2022 Championship, and away we go. And it was a poor start for Rosella, very poor, that very unusual poor start for Rosella. Ross to the lead from Stenberg. Wedding trying to round Rosella up on the outside. Now there's already some cars, two CRE cars looked like they got together and went off the circuit. I think it was Rutledge and perhaps it might have been Termo in the background as well that went off at turn one, and they're sinking through the field like a stone. But Ross has the whole shot. Wedding tucked right in behind Stenberg here, giving him quite a push all the way down to turn three.
Something we missed in all as well, actually, with another couple of cars going off. Luke Rosella, Dan Liccardo, I think, put it down the inside at turn two, and I'm not sure whether cold tyres or what it was. It was a very, very ambitious move. Probably might see that on the stewarding.
Early safety car. Early safety car. So this is an interesting point of call here. Looking to see who we've got. We've got some cars at the very back. I think we've got Lockie Lock.
Cheese. It'll be Cheese. Turn three.
Yeah, Cheese looks like at turn three, and potentially Lockie Lock, I think, may be involved as well. I did see there was a bit of something going on here. So Cheese a little bit deep at turn three. And, oh no, he's done the same thing. Got into Devonish. Snipes. Oh, there was a big pile up. Big pile up of cars. There'll be cars coming to the lane for damage for sure. Devonish, I think, may be lucky to escape with just a little bit of damage in the door there. A little bit unfortunate for the guys down the back there. Hey, that's a similar incident to something I think we saw last year down there as well. I can't remember if it was Foley or who it was, but have a look at everybody coming to the lane. Burko, Cheese, Lockie Lock, Foley, and Corey McFarlane. So they've all been caught up in that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's an easy spot to I suppose, sort of die car-wise out there. Not so much from the point of view of, sorry, just some timing playing up there. Not so much from the view of that spot in particular, but it's just a race to get on the throttle. And if you get on too soon, you end up putting yourself into a spin like that. I will say, as a side note, we were doing some testing for the social series this week, and one of the series that we're looking at is the 2003 NASCARs. And having just seen that, that's the most NASCAR crash I've seen in Supercars for a while, because we don't often see a crash where half the field gets included in it.
Yeah, we don't normally see a big one like that, and as you saw, there was about 5 or 6 cars come to the lane to get some repairs completed there. And the one that escaped, as I said, the thing with probably just a little bit of door damage is this man, Will Devonish. He's actually found 8 spots at the start there, so he's had a good start. He's managed to be lucky to avoid the carnage, and now moves himself up into 10th place. Now, who's he behind? He's behind the 2 AAR cars of Brunswick and Burke, and then Rosella and Higginson just a little bit further ahead. Now, importantly, this safety car is really interesting because it comes up at the very beginning of the race. And if we bring up our DCD race facts for this one, for Queensland Raceway, there it is there, 26 laps. Pit stops, of course, are optional. If you've been through the lane, for the repairs, you've done a bit more time damage than that. The fuel burn at maximum rate, 4.5 to 5 litres a lap. So that's interesting in itself because that's at full pace. This now means that a few laps behind the safety car, a few drivers might be looking to stretch their fuel mileage to bring it home without having to take on fuel. However, there is a choice of strategy here, Brody. The hard tyres or the soft tyres. The soft tyres, of course, you're going to need to manage them a little bit to get them home from here. You're probably going to be at a little bit of a stretch to make it, but if you've gone the hard tyre route here, this safety car is actually quite good for you, because it means you're in a very nice position for when everybody else peels into the lane. You haven't got a huge deficit and you're insulated from anybody behind. I was talking to a couple of drivers about the hard strategy and that you might have to drive to a number to make it on fuel, but now that fuel argument is completely out the window here.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily play in as easily for some drivers strategy call-wise as, say, a mid-race safety car would. But yeah, if you're that, sort of lap or two critical on fuel or even maybe tyres from what predictions you've made yourself as a driver, then this can erase most of that for you. So yeah, I think we might see some drivers maybe having a B strategy in place that they've maybe defaulted to, or maybe being able to lock in their A strategy. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how we go from here as to obviously we didn't really get a good call in that first sort of 3 corners as to who was on what tyre, but we'll sort of see that as the race goes on. The hard tyre guys out there will be able to go flat chat. The soft tyre guys might need to possibly still conserve a little bit. It will depend on how they're planning on racing themselves as well. You're going to use a lot more time if you're actively having to race people, as opposed to just running laps, and you can sort of pick your lines and choose the least wear option, as opposed to, looking up the inside or having to park the bus or something like that, where you're taking unconventional lines and asking a lot more of your tyres as a result.
Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb here, Roddy, and I normally don't go out on a limb, but I'm going to say that this man on screen here, Luke Rosella, given how tardy his start was, he may be on the hard tyre.
I'd say that was an uncharacteristically poor start for Luke Rosella, so it is possible he's on the hard. Part of the start as a whole, he did lose a few spots, but that's still easily missing the start. The wider start issues, as I mentioned, he had a potential incident, and we'll see that one probably in the stewards room potentially later. I didn't get a chance to see it outside of the live. With Dan Liccardo going down the inside of turn 2, and them both sort of washing a little wide, and Luke ending up in the dirt as a result. That dropped him a few spots as well. As I think we're getting underway again, and Brendan Ross has just picked up a 10-second penalty. Yeah, we have, and I don't think that's probably going to be cleared for this one because he is the lead car in the queue. Green flag in the air. We go back to running here, and Rossi bolts. Yeah, I'm not sure whether that was for a jump start or what he was given that for. It's hard to be out of position with the lead car in the queue. But yeah, I suppose we'll see how that one eventually goes on. But yeah, at the moment he's trying to get out of there as soon as possible. Kurt Stenberg potentially the quicker driver, and Rossi considering that, he budges himself as the second slowest driver in the league, and results don't show that, but it doesn't matter for much right now because he's got to hold off one of the fastest drivers in the league.
He certainly does, and Luke Rosella, who's a little bit further back there, picked up a spot on Nathan Higginson at turn number 3. Higginson looking for another opportunity to come back up the inside at 4, but nothing going at this particular stanza of the race. And Rossi and Stenberg clearing out a little bit in front, leaving Lewis Wedding behind. Actually under under threat from Dane Liccardo, but Liccardo picked up 2 spots here and got a bit of a point to prove. This was the corner down here, had a fantastic pass. Remember that pass last year, Rody? He was outside to one, inside the other. Nope.
Okay, sorry, blinky yellow. I thought it was another safety car.
Localised yellow. Actually, I can just see it in the back of shot there. There's a few cars that have found themselves. Lockie Burke's gone around. I'm not sure. Devonish is around as well. So, was there any other cars involved there? Interesting to see what happened there between Devonish and Burke. So, Devonish got into the back of Burke. So that's a mistake, I think, from Devonish under braking there, and a major collision. That's quite a hit, actually. So this race for Will Devonish is not going according to plan.
Yeah, he came from a long way back there. I'm not sure whether missed a brake, finished a brake, whatever it was, the car was not stopping. Credit to him, he saw the rear of the Hans Brunswick Mustang in front of him and decided not to go for that. But in the end, trying to avoid as many cars as possible, he has ended up clipping Lockie Burke, which is a shame for Lockie. He was running pretty well, obviously, up there with his teammate in the top 10. He's now back to 20. He shouldn't have picked up too much damage from that. It would have just spun him and dropped him spots. But if he is tyre questionable, that will have cooked up his rear tyre, something that he wasn't wanting to do.
That's right, and he's now the last car at the moment, Will Devonish. And look, he's redressed the spot. That's the important thing for him, but they will still end up in Stewart's room after that. Have a look at this here. Luke Rosella swarming all over the back of Dane Liccardo. Now, these two have got a little bit of history as well. I mean, I know they don't talk to each other nowadays, but I think the wounds are still fresh after the AAR split of a couple of years ago. And Dane's driving a pretty defensive line at the moment, keep Rosella at bay here. While ahead, what's happened to Kurt Stenberg? Has he had a moment? He has. He's fallen off the back of Brendan Rossi.
He had a moment, but he's aggressively falling back as well, because Dane Liccardo and Luke Rosella both pulled a couple of cars him on the straight. There's a bit of contact there as they're all trying to get their way through turn 4, but I'd say there's a problem for Stenberg because he's getting passed by drivers. There's a problem with his car. Something's
not right here for Stenberg. Let's go on board and see if we can pick it up from the onboard microphone here, Rody. You're a bit more adept at this than I am. What do you think's going on? Because Cox has now gone through. What's Stenberg nursing here?
It's hard to tell. It sounds like it's accelerating perfectly fine, but it's just not carrying increased speed the same way as others do. I'm not sure whether, I don't know, we're talking about conservation, whether he's having to conserve or something, or I don't know. If it was any other sim, I'd say percentages of engine damage, but engine damage doesn't work the same way on AMS, so I really don't know.
Looking at sector times as we go back to this fight here with Liccardo. Oh, and some contact between Rosella and Liccardo, and Rosella goes off, and so too Liccardo. So that was brewing for a little bit there. I don't know what happened, but that's a bit of I think, again, Dane taking that defensive line has unfortunately led to some contact there. That's going to be an interesting debate after this one's over.
Yeah, I just went back and had a look at that. Dane was holding the centre of the road down at turn 3.
And there's some escorting going on here. There's 3 cars into each other. Stenberg and Rosella and Liccardo all into each other. And Liccardo ends up the one spilt out of all of that and into the marshal's post there at the run to turn 4. So a few ugly things going on here.
And actually, Dane's retired that car as well. Yeah, to go back to the other one, Dane was holding the centre of the road down at turn 3. Luke Rosella was looking to go around the outside, changed at the last second before the braking zone to the inside. The cars drifted a little in the braking zone, and it was front left wheel to rear right wheel. They hopped each other's wheels. And then I'm not sure whether the secondary thing was considered a bit of retaliatory action or what it was. Yeah, Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella sort of both getting into the rear and side of Dane Liccardo, and obviously Dane pinched into the marshal's post, and Kurt Stenberg actually copping a bit more damage than he's probably already carrying from whatever's causing his current or previous issues, because he was sandwiched between Dane Liccardo and I think it might have been Rosella in one of the passing cars. But
yeah, Rosella.
that was messy all up.
That was very messy, and I mean that was brewing. I could see that was going to brew, and it was going to get something was going to happen there. So the one of the action tracks that's had a fair bit of action over the course of the last few years in ASR has produced some action again, producing a really good exchange here between Steve Warwick, Braxton Stancliffe and Lockie Lock a bit further down the order as well. Stenberg continues to lose places here. Foley's now gone through, and you can see that Warwick and Stancliffe and co are now honing in on the back of him. I'm not 100% sure, again, Rhodey, about the tyre strategy, Marks. I'm still wondering whether or not Stenberg's gone a hard tyre strategy, considering how quickly he's falling through the field. But I look at some of the lap times as well, and like he's doing 1 minute 12s, right? He's done a minute 12 for the last 2 laps. I mean, his first sector time was a 25.9, 23.4 in the middle, and 23.4 at the end. He's at well over a sector slower than everybody else going on. Now, I don't know if that's going to be anything relating to some sort of damage or something going on there, but look, it's all something's going on. A bit interesting here as Stancliffe goes through. It's getting a little bit cozy as championship points leaders are about to get very, very close for comfort. Will Devonish is now on the back of Kurt Stenberg, and through he goes, I think, that's what's going on, I believe, at the moment. Yeah, he has. He's gone through.
Yeah, this is, I don't even think it's necessarily tight, because the car it's not accelerating, but then it's just not accelerating past the point
where you
go, it's a lack of tire.
3 wide.
It's just not going anywhere.
Very briefly, 3 wide. Burke and Lockie Lock just out of the back of shot. They were lining up to get through on Stenberg too. Burke got through, Lock didn't. Mugford's trying to go with Lock as well. So the stricken number 47 TTR Commodore is in trouble. Oh, it's Stancliffe! Went for a wild spin off shot, and he gathered it up and kept it going the right direction. That looked like it was fairly entertaining. Not for us, not for him.
I've just received an answer thanks to one of Kurt's teammates, and Cole Warwick, who isn't racing tonight. Unfortunately, he's had some recent heart surgery. But Stenny has had a pedal failure, according to Cole. He's only getting 75% throttle, which does track with what we're seeing. Yeah, I think you're probably right there if that's what's going on. So that's why it sounds like it's normal under acceleration. It's just not the travel. There's the Stancliffe spin for you, all by himself. Gathered it up and got it pointing the right direction, but unfortunately for him, he has now dropped to 19th. So he's the second last of the classified runners at the moment, and probably got a few tyres on that number 187 that are a little bit worse for wear right now. Wow. Yeah, it's like you mentioned, action track, and it's not the nation's action track being the subtitle for Winton Raceway, but yeah, for all the guys that look at the Paperclip and think of it being Paperclip being pretty boring, pretty like an piece of office stationery. No. It's lit up, potentially not for all the right reasons, but lives on with some of the action that we've seen last year, and it's carrying on again this year. It is indeed carrying on, and there's Daniel Cox. I've just brought him up on screen here because he's in a super excellent third place at the moment. Probably about to lose that spot to Luke Rosella in the next couple of corners or so, but he's had a very clean drive, and we grabbed him after, I think it was after Winton, I think it was, to have a chat with him, and he did your trick of using 400 words when probably 40 would have done. Oh no, Coxie was great in the interview, because all I did was ask him the one question, and he knew the other 4 that I wanted to ask him, answer them all in succession for me. There you go, and there goes Rosella. So we weren't too far off being correct here. You can just see up ahead, there's Lewis Wedding, and then Brendan Ross about 4 seconds further up the road. So not too much further for them to go there. We've got to take stock of this field, Roadie, because, actually, there's Lockie Burke. What's happened to him there? Has he had a failure of some nature as well? Because he's gone for a bit of a wild trip across the grass. I know he's using VR and all, but he's had a really awkward run through turns 1 and 2. He's just lost a few spots there as well. He had a bit of over-rotation in the car through turn 1. He looks like he's having doesn't. It's not tracking suspension-wise as if he's got a tyre problem, but it just for a couple of corners there, it just looked like he had no grip from his left rear. It seems to have restored itself now. So overheating or just pushing too hard, I don't know what it was, but yeah, that was odd. He lost a few spots for that.
He did indeed, and he's now gone. Yeah, he lost a spot to Turmo and to Steve Burko, so those two CRE Mustangs have gone through on him at this point. So he's lost 4 spots overall from where he has started. So we're going to take stock of what's happening here, because this is really shaken up the order. This is something that we haven't had for quite some time, and we just seen Burke pitting as well. So he is the first of the drivers to make a stop under green flag running. So Brendan Ross leading this race by the better part of 4 seconds from his teammate Lewis Wedding. So Pixel Sim Sports 1 and 2. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the night at the moment? Then we got Luke Rosella's moved himself back up into 3rd place, having started from the pole. And then Daniel Cox in 4th. Hans Brunswick in 5th, so good result for him so far, and he'll be pretty happy with that one aboard the AOC-backed AAR Mustang. Higginson in 6th. Foley has made his way up from the rear of the grid to 7th, and behind him, NZ Snipes having a pretty nice and handsome run at the moment, but he's about to be passed by Will Devonish, who's behind in 9th. Again, he started toward the rear, and it's a bit ironic compared to Stenny. Both of them have had sim rig-related failures tonight. And then Cam Rutledge in 10th. So CRE having a pretty good showing at the moment, even with all the carnage going on. And then Steve Warwick, another good drive from the back of the grid. He's up to 11th place. Good drive for him. Termo 12th, Burko 13th, Lockie Lock, Cheese, Kurt Stenberg, the ailing Commodore, down in 16th at the moment. Braxton Stancliffe, he now pits from 17th, and then you got McFarlane, Mugford, and then Lockie Burke, who's just been through the lane. So there's only been 2 drivers on pit road so far, Burke and now Braxton Stancliffe.
Outside of the stops that we saw for damage,
correct,
for safety car, of course.
Correct, and those guys that stopped at that particular juncture as well were Foley, Burko, I think it was, we had McFarlane in there, I believe Mugford may have came in as well, and then Termo, I think, came in as well. So don't know if those drivers have actually gone on to a different strategy and changed what they are doing, but that now adds a really interesting and complicating factor to this race.
Yeah, the next thing I'm keeping an eye out for, actually, I think I've just seen, it would just be, I think it was just Brendan and Ross who went through and lapped. Third place man is in, actually.
Sorry, 4th place man, was Daniel Cox. So he's come into the lane, so he's in for a stop, and to Brenton Foley. Okay, so
that just sniped as well.
Yep, so that answers one question that I was worried about, was that had any of those drivers that stopped under the safety car had gone on to a different divergent strategy? The answer is no. They came in exclusively for damage repair only. Now I think here comes Luke Rosella. He's coming around. I think Rosella may have actually been in as well.
I think he was in, because yeah, he's now down 13th, and a slightly longer lap. The last lap would suggest a pit exit from that lap. But yeah, I was wondering where he was. I was looking to see, because I was looking an eye on where he was relative to Lewis Wedding, because we saw Lewis' defensive work at Albert Park at the start of the season, and he's full within his rights to defend the way he wants to. But I have made mention to him that he seemed to give Luke Rosella a bit of an easier ride than everyone else. So I was curious to see, especially with teams' points on the stake such as it was, whether he was going to let Luke through, or he's going to make Luke earn the spot. But Luke's made the decision for him and has pitted early and might end up with an undercut in here. All
right, here we go. A couple more stoppers. Hans Brunswick in the lane, and I think leaving the lane looks like that might be, actually, is that Wedding? No, it's Ross as race leader. So Ross is in, Steve Warwick in. So this is around that sort of pit stop window. We were sort of thinking if people are going to stop on the soft strategy, it's going to be that window about lap 13 to lap 16. And that's extended by a little bit here because of this safety car. As now we start to get a pace indication from Rosella, 107.693, which is pretty close, I think, to a circuit record. I'll have to go back and double check that. I know the qualifying record is now gone tonight. Rosella was 6.9, has obliterated that mark, which was a 7.2 from the previous year. But I don't expect Stenny to fight this too much with Brendan Ross down the inside, and my suspicion there is correct. And he lets Brendan Ross through. Now, where's Lewis Wedding in all of this? He's currently leading the race. No, he's not. He's in the lane.
Yeah, so based on where Ross came back in, he's going to probably come out fairly line astern, or probably just ahead of Luke Rosella. It depends just on how refined his pit stop was, how quickly he got into the box, how late he got on the brakes for the line. It'd also be a case of how well he gets the exit done, but it's going to be pretty close. We're just seeing Brendan Ross go through now.
Yep, there he goes.
Followed by Kurt Stenberg, and then it's going to be Luke Rosella.
Yep, so where does Wedding feedback at? He has. Lap. He does indeed, and that's a really good run for Rosella too. He back-to-back fastest laps of the race. He jumps Lewis Wedding through the stops. And, well, I don't know if Wedding's got the pace to go with Rosella here and try and mow down the number 1 Synergy Sim Racing Commodore, as Rosella's about to clear Kurt Stenberg, and he does quite easily down there at turn number 3. Stenny doesn't fight it. He's just got to bring it home from here, then try and sort out whatever those ailments are for him and keep going. Will Devonish leads the race at the moment here, Rody, and for a lap, because here he comes. He's into the lane. So for him, this is damage limitation. He's actually got the first pit box here and straight in.
Oh, I just saw pitting behind him as well, Nathan Higginson. He had it cranked right out sideways through the last corner. Probably just a little late on the brakes, maybe pinched the rears. But yeah, Will Devonish actually bit of this is going to be. Oh, that was probably the best that could have gone, actually. Nathan Higginson entered the lane just as Will Devonish was leaving his box, and they had a bit of an awkward moment of the you go first, no, you go first.
Yep.
Cam Rutledge as well was into the lane, so he's going to drop back outside the top 10. But yeah, we're starting to see, I think, most of the drivers planning for a soft strategy here.
They are, and just keeping an eye on, there's Brendan Ross at the moment on screen. Will Devonish just feeding back into the traffic. He's going to come out ahead of Brenton Foley. That's going to put him 11th. And all the drivers ahead of him directly at the moment have stopped. So the only ones that haven't stopped, Termo has not stopped. Oh, that's Brunswick.
And
that's an engine. That's an engine for that car. And yeah, he's stricken there on the back straight. There he is. He's not going anywhere.
He's done. Oh, he did that through 1.
So he blew that through 1. He's off the racing line, importantly. So that'll be his race over and done with.
I mean, it's concession. This isn't IRL, and it hasn't just dropped its guts all through turn 1 and 2. Because IRL, you'd be having a 10-minute safety car with the sand truck out there to clear it, because an oil line through 1 and 2 is going to make a mess of things. But yeah, it's. I mean, every brake opportunity is a chance to blow an engine, but for it to be Hans, who normally is pretty sympathetic with his car, and for him to have done it in turn 1 of all, it's odd, but it takes all shapes and sizes, and a really good run for the AOC Aegon Mustang there, just undone. Turn 1.
Absolutely. Now it's created a localised yellow. It's actually, the yellow's actually just been cleared now, so they've managed to pull that car away. So Termo leads the race and is yet to stop. So effective race leader is currently Brendan Ross, 6.2 seconds in arrears of Termo at the moment. Then Rosella and Wedding, so that'll be an interesting podium combination to get in here. The man I'm interested in having a look at is Daniel Cox. He's in 5th place at the moment. I want to have a look just to see what his lap times are relative to Lewis Wedding. He's only 0.2 of a second slower than Wedding, but he's running out of time to drag that pace up as Termo now pits, so that will cycle the field.
Yeah, it has a good pace, Coxie, but not quite necessarily enough. And he probably could hold with Wedding if he was closer, but he needs to make up that gap, and it's going to be a second a lap at this point. And he's come on with good pace this season, but he hasn't quite got enough to challenge and overcome Wedding with that sort of strength at this point of the race.
No. Now I'm looking at I actually just had a bit of an epiphany here, Rody. Given that Kurt Stenberg has got the 75% throttle travel issue at the moment, he's not getting full power. What's that do for his fuel economy?
Well, yeah, because AMS works off of how much throttle you're using rather than the revs you're running at. So this, if he was worried about fuel economy, this is a really, well, I'm going to say an unfun way to get your fuel economy where you want it, but it's a way that you don't have to worry about yourself stuffing up, because he can only get 75% throttle. So he's going to be using a little less fuel than everybody on track right now. And if his fuel is a question mark for him, that question mark is now a full stop. And it's not an issue anymore.
That's right. So potentially he might be in a position to maybe salvage a little some points here. Here goes Will Devenish down the inside of. No, there he is. That's actually right. That's that just strategy just went completely out the window. Yeah, I just brought it up as an interesting point. Mainly because I just saw Devenish go down the inside of Corey McFarlane at the last turn, who's actually now fighting it back a little bit here, but Devenish takes that place away. I was just looking at it sort of going, hang on a minute, if he's not getting the same fuel economy, if he's actually able to save a little bit of fuel, maybe he was in a position potentially to hang on and maybe defend for the last few laps or so, and maybe salvage actually a pretty decent result, all things considered. But that's now strategy's now sort of gone to moot, especially because I was looking at Devenish's times being, the better part of 3 seconds a lap quicker than what Stenberg was doing. I was just doing the math in my head, given they're only separated by 9 points. For Stenberg now coming out 18th place, fair to say that I think he'll be probably looking at this and saying, well, I think I know what my drop round's going to be.
Yeah, you talked about McFarlane there actually, just with his little battle with Will there. That run actually for him was a bad move for him trying to re-attack at turn 1 because that put him off pace through the next couple of corners, which is what left Ollie back through. But I'm just having a look at Corey at the moment. He doesn't quite seem to have the pace of the cars around him. So whether hard tyre, whether I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure we did see everyone through the lane, but I can't recall having seen Corey through the lane. So whether he's out here on a hard and need his tyres to start. Okay.
He came in. He came in under the safety car and had damage repair. And I'd imagine just looking at some of the time, like his last lap time that last time around was a 1:11. And I'm just going to go and have a look at what times he's actually been doing over the last couple of laps. He's actually been, his times are starting to drop off a little bit now. He's into the 9s, 10s, and then obviously that one was an 11, having just been passed as well. So I think he's probably at the back end of the pit stop thing, maybe just trying to nurse it home, pick up a whole bunch of points. He's got a little bit of an air gap. You can see there's that being said, I think there was NZ Snipes and a couple of others were a little bit wide down here at the last corner, and yeah, they were, because Mugford has capitalised and gone through to 8th.
Yeah, so talking about drivers that are getting some good strong runs in. Mugford as well. First race back in a few rounds to be running up in 8th. Doing a pretty good job. Not sure how much practice he's had during the week, and where he's in Queensland.
I'm wondering if there was. I was looking to see a Snipes.
I say that, and Mugford's now pitted as well.
Yeah, well, Mugford actually looks like he might be going a bit longer here as well, because I was just looking just to see what was happening at turn 3. It looks like Snipes has run off the road all by himself, and yeah, you're right, Mugford's now been in, so that shoves him down to the back of the field. That's I wasn't expecting a stop this late for anybody.
I'm guessing maybe just that, I don't know, maybe he was planning on stopping anyway, but with the safety car just prolonged the first run. Well,
I've just seen something, Rhodey, and I've got a funny feeling there might have been a fuel strategy miscalculation going on for that one, because he didn't look like he took any tyres. The car came in, it was stationary on the ground, and then it went out again. So maybe it was a little bit short of fuel.
Yeah, that would make some sense then. Yeah, with pitting this late, you only pit this late because you're fuel questionable. So that's a shame, because he was running pretty strongly. He might still have some pace. Well, even if he's got some pace, he's 12 seconds off the next car in front, so he's probably going to finish about this point. The only sort of battle he's going to have for the next little bit is with Kurt Stenberg. And that said, just looking in background, Kurt Stenberg is currently being lapped by Brendan Ross and Luke Rosella, who are in a pretty tight fight for the lead of this race right now.
They are indeed. Rosella's been pumping in the lap times as well, and he's been a good couple of tenths of a second quicker than Rossi for the last few laps. He's mown that gap down to virtually nothing. And we've got 2 corners left on the penultimate lap, and then we're on to the final lap. Can Pixel Sim Sports get a win? They wouldn't have penciled this in at the beginning of the year. They would have been looking from a team's point of view. Here goes Rosella down the inside. Is he overcommitted slightly? No.
Over and under maybe for Ross. You got to watch apply that throttle, but he's gotten it just about right. That said, bit of contact there has actually taken the pace off of Brendan Ross, so he's now back behind at turn 1. He's not going to give it up just yet though, but he's going to have to pick his moment. Yep,
he's got the ideal line for turn 1. Rosella's very heavily compromised through these couple of corners here, being on the narrower approach. So the next spot for Rossi is going to be at turn 3. if he can make this move work. Rosella's parking it defensively, every spot he can get. There's only 4 corners left to go. He's making Ross go the long way. Deep under brakes for Ross. Car wiggles a little bit. If he can hold it around the outside here, this will put him in position for the inside at the next 2 turns, but he can't get it done. Rosella's now going to have to park it toward the inside here. Ross thinks about the dive. Rosella covers it, going down into 4. There's no passing now through here. The next opportunity is at turn 6.
Yeah, this is one and last
and that's it.
Spot. He's got a really bad run out of there.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be it.
He's ruined it. Yeah, he's ruined it. He had got a slide job off of turn 5. He couldn't hold on there. The lap traffic may have played a little bit of a factor in this one. So, snatched from the jaws of victory. Rosella takes the win. After a tardy start off the front row of the grid, he mows down Brendan Ross and takes the win. So good run though for the Pixel Sim Sports guys. They've come home with 2nd and 3rd overall, along with Rosella being on the podium.
Yeah, still a really good run. I was alt-tabbed there looking at my stat sheet because Ross, since start season, was the holder of the 2 longest records and he nearly put a cap in the second one, but he's going to have to wait another race for that one.
Have a look at this though, Rhodey. Right down the bottom of the back end of the top 10, you've got Lockie Burke hanging on to 8th for dear life with 4 Mustangs behind him, 5 Mustangs in the shot. And then Burke gets home for 8th, Snipes for 9th, Termo for 10th, Rutledge and Burke are 11th and 12th. They were covered by next to nothing at the flag. Should go to mention as well, Daniel Cox actually a brilliant 4th as well. So even if him and Termo were tied on points at the end of the night, I think that actually might actually be enough, I believe, to get him the icebreaker over in the point standings. I'll have to go back and double check that. He's come home for 4th. Devonish from the rear of the grid to 5th. Foley from the rear of the grid to 6th. Those guys have come up 13 spots each through all the carnage that went on and the unfortunate circumstances that a couple of drivers have found themselves in. And McFarlane ended up 7th, and he was about 2 seconds up the road from Burke and the rest of his champagne bottle at the end of that one. What a race!
That was a good race. I got to admit, I was thrown off in about 5 laps there, trying to figure out what exactly was happening with Stenberg, because that was a really old one, and you know we were right. It was just the engine wasn't getting the revs it was needing. And look, it's done a decent job. You know, he's got some points. They're not much. There's probably going to be a drop round for him, so these points are not going to be much for him in the long run. But he's got the car home in the end. You know, a couple of drivers that maybe aren't performing quite as well as we thought we'd see for them in this race. Anthony Higginson did qualify fairly well. He's finished down the back. I did see him light the title up on a few occasions.
Cox is now doing it as well on the screen
Braxton
right
Staincliffe also was showing some decent pace in practice, and well, at the time didn't get counted in qualifying. He was looking all right. Not too bad in qualifying either, but he's finished down the back. And also to the 2 people who didn't end up finishing that race, Dan Liccardo out fairly early after getting pinched into the tyres, and Hans Brunswick out with an engine failure at turn 1.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame for Hans Brunswick. I actually it was good to see him. He was actually, I think, up as high as, I think we counted as 7th at one stage, and looking fairly handy. And as you said, he blew the engine at turn 1 and then coasted the thing all the way through to the exit of turn 2. And thankfully, it was just a localised yellow flag for that one. But that early safety car turned things on its head, and well, we got a fairly mixed up order. We've had everything in this first race tonight. I'll be interested to see what we get in race number 2, but what we do get now is a chance to have a little discussion with our top 3, Rhodey. And what are we going to do? We're going to start the top down, or are we going to start from the bottom up?
I think we'll go bottom up.
Alrighty.
So Lewis Wedding, it's been a little while, I think, since we've last seen you. I should say that it's only been around since we've last seen you on the podium. But, yeah, pretty good running for yourself in race 1 today.
Yeah, so can't thank the team enough. Obviously, Rossi and a few others. Some of our affiliates, you know, been throwing some things at the car, and it certainly helped in qualifying, which I was stoked with my lap. And then from the race, it was all about trying not to die. Didn't die, so that's the first tick. Didn't have a terrible start, and then really it was pretty much watching Rossi drive off into the distance, seeing Stanley a couple of times, and then hoping I'd get out in front of Luke for a lap. So that's pretty much my race. But Yeah, that is a fantastic result. I think it's my first podium that I've actually not had post race handed to me. So in a long time. So I'll certainly take that, and yeah, I'm very happy.
Yeah, you're talking about Luke Rosella. Obviously, the point in the middle of the race there, he was coming up on the back of you just before he went and pitted. Did you know that he have any inkling that he was going to pit, or were you contemplating options on defending versus maybe playing a little easy on him?
Well, I was going to I was going to defend. Rossi had a race win. The team had a win, a possible win on the table. You know, if I could have just bought him some time. So
Hmm.
I was hoping. I knew Luke had pitted, and I said to obviously to the team, to Rossi, that you know, I think a lap and a half in, you expect a fastest lap from Luke here, and right on cue. He set a fastest lap that was, I think, a good 5-6 tenths faster than anything that had been set previously. And obviously, we were on worn tires that stage, so it was all about, you know, hopefully, you know, we could just hold on. And we did have a couple I did have a couple second gap to Luke before the pit stops. And I
Hmm.
was sort of hoping that we'd just sneak out in front of him. For even half a lap would have been crucial, but couldn't quite do it. Luke was too quick, particularly on that. We set another fastest lap on my in lap, which got him over the top, which ultimately won in the race. Shame for, you know, we couldn't get the win, but it just shows Luke's quality in these cars.
Absolutely. Still a very good haul of points, obviously, not only for yourself, but also for the team's points. This is going to put you guys pretty comfortable at the front. We did hear before the race that you guys are having some sponsor dilemmas, that you maybe not quite hitting the performance targets. Is this going to be enough for them?
Well, actually, it's the opposite. We've been going too good. Like the team when we had, you know, Vodafone, Komatsu, Dunlop, and of course GB Gal, Ampol, and the like, you know, jump on board. Red Bull as well. Can't forget them. Sparko and Beyond Blue and Chico rolls. Love a Chico roll. Look, they were expecting us to be, you know, second last and running at the back of the field. So like they're stoked. But now that we've been, you know, sort of semi-successful at the start of the year, they're actually asking us to sort of do some sponsor stuff, which is a bit frustrating because, you know, me and Rossi, we do like our free time. So whenever we can, we do like to plug our sponsors. So yeah, Vodafone, proud of you.
Fair enough. Alrighty, mate. You to keep those sponsors happy. Alrighty. Great work in race one, and hopefully we'll see you back here for race two.
Thank you.
Alrighty, moving up to nearly a race winner, and I know he's on top of the stats, so he's probably got in his mind just how long it's been since his last won a race. Brendan Ross.
Yeah, I don't know how long since I've last won a race. That might be in the 1,000 days.
That is, I did have the stat up. You are currently sitting at just under 1,200 days between race wins. So you were about 5 turns off of breaking that streak, but still a very strong run for you today.
Yeah, it was quite a very good performance. Qualifying really sort of surprised us a little bit. Especially Lewis sort of jumping up there with the little practice he did. But then same as Lewis, how he said the setup work that we've done between each other and then been handed to us, it's what put us in this position. And then just to sort of show it on the race speed, I felt like I was pretty consistent out there. But Luke, obviously, just once again, just shows how fast he is compared to everyone here, even if he sort of was held back a little bit with a couple of dramas. Unfortunate to lose to him, but I mean, it is what it is. Like to come second in a field this size, considering my history and whatnot, I'm actually quite happy.
Yeah, so another podium on the board, which you're doing a pretty good job of racking those up now that you finally broke the bubble earlier this year. You know, as I said, you know, good haul of points. And how do you feel going into the second race?
Probably, I'd like to say I'd probably finish in the same position, but I think Stenny tried a few different things in that race, which probably didn't work in his favour. So he'll be up there again. Will obviously with his technical issue, he'll be up there. So we probably might find ourselves on the back end of the podium, but hopefully a top 5 for both Lewis and I, and that'll keep us right at the top of the team's championship, which is our main focus for the time being.
Absolutely. Great work in the first race, Rossi, and good luck for race 2.
Thanks, mate.
And finally, Luke Rosella, no stranger to seeing you up here, mate, but it nearly wasn't to be. Those Pixel Sim Sports guys ran you pretty hard.
Yeah, it was a pretty hard race. It was pretty nearly doomed for the start. I started on pretty warm tyres at the start, So I was
Ah,
on the back foot. Yeah, I mean, they're running pretty low pressures as they are now, and to have even old tires, it was the thing was pretty bad on the first couple of laps. So had a fight with that. Had a few stupid, idiotic moves from other drivers that held us back, but yeah, we had to do the undercut to fight to pass. More to pass Lewis, to be honest. And that worked, and had a really good battle with Rossi at the end there. It was good.
yeah. So it's, how did you feel generally coming into this round? Because I think this track doesn't fall amongst one of your favorites. It's probably a bit simple for your taste. Do you still like the racing around here?
I mean, the racing's good Brody around here, but I just don't really particularly enjoy the layout. Just as a sort of sex appeal sort of driving aspect. It's not really interesting. It's not really good, but the racing is good, and the car. Yeah, we had a good car last year, and the car this year was really good, so that's a positive. And happy to get a win, and feel a bit bad to take a win off Rossi, but that's racing.
Oh, it is, yeah. No, great work in the end to bounce back some of those issues at the start, and hopefully for your sake, we'll see you up here again in race 2.
That's the plan. Thanks, Brady.
All good, mate. And that has been the Race 1 podium.
Thanks very much, buddy. It's good to have a bit of a different looking podium for a change. A few drivers that haven't been on the podium for a little while, or that are actually sort of showing their credentials a little bit over the course of the last couple of rounds. I mean, Lewis and Rossi have sort of been, chipping away, and to find them up the pointy end of the podium is actually really good to see. And we'll see what race 2 has actually got in store for us. What we're actually going to do is take a very short break here, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be back on the other side of this with qualifying number 2. Don't go anywhere. The 2022 ASR Supercars Championship is proudly brought to you by Cam Rutledge Electrical, a licensed electrical contractor in Nowra, New South Wales, and Beyond Electrical, specialists in electrical, domestic, commercial, industrial and maintenance work in Auckland, New Zealand. The ASR team would also like to pay thanks to those businesses that helped us over the course of the 2021 season. Matt Harvey Repair and Tune, Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions, Design, Plan, Construct. Penrite, a better class of oil since 1926. Ryco Filters, the professional's choice since 1936. And Milwaukee Tool, nothing but heavy duty. Thanks for staying with us, everybody. You're watching the ASR Supercars Championship for 2022, round 6. And, Rody, we've seen a very, muddled up and mixed up, I think is probably the right way to call it, race number 1. Some people in some positions we weren't expecting to see them. Some great drives from a number of people as well. What are we going to see in race 2?
Yeah, it's a good question because a couple of drivers, as the guys mentioned in the interviews, a couple of drivers out of position from where we thought expect to see them. Obviously, Foley starting off the back had a really good run. Will Devonish the same, although he had he tripped over a couple of cars at various points there. And obviously Kurt Stenberg as well with the pedal dramas. There's a very easy sort of top 6 here of various paces, to be fair. And to be fair, it'll be a disservice in all that to count out someone like Daniel Cox, who's had a really strong, really sort of relatively quiet first race, but really a really strong result to be the best of the rest outside of the podium. And considering where he's come from, like he was racing Super 2 around here last year, and he wasn't the outright fastest, but obviously he had the consistency and had the pace where it mattered last year to take on the title. And he was a promotion more from the point of view of having to recruit the necessary super license points, as it were, rather than from just being outright too quick for Dev Series. But he's come on leaps and bounds from here, whether he needed the access to car setup data to really extract the pace or what it is. But he's running pretty strong as well. So probably 6-7 cars that we can expect to see fighting over podium spots in race 2, but we've got to get qualifying over and done with first.
We do. It's a twin sprint round. That means there's a second qualifying session for the night. Another 10 minutes on the board. Green flag and the green light at the end of pit lane. And Daniel Cox bags it up, leaves a pair of 11s and heads out of pit lane. Looks like the whole a good chunk of the field actually is heading out of the lane. There's Termo, Braxton Stancliffe. Mugford's gone out as well. So everybody that missed out on getting a qualifying lap in the qualifying 1 earlier in the night is in the server this time, in time to get a run in quali number 2. There's a couple of drivers that are not out there just yet. Looks like Brenton Foley is actually just leaving the lane now. Lewis Wedding, the only man is actually just waiting for everybody to go out, wanting to be the last man out of the lane. So every single driver is on the circuit will be on the circuit in about 7 or 8 seconds once Lewis Wedding clears that white line at the end of pit lane.
Yeah, they got plenty of time to get out here and qualify, but I don't know, something's picked a box for all these guys. They have to get out early. I did mention earlier that it seems everyone got some good laps in the first lap of the session, so whether it's a cold car, whether it's even cold track that they're all trying to capitalise on, I don't know, but something's in the air, something's been getting around the paddock, and yeah, we've got all cars on track for qualifying in the early stages.
Absolutely do. Stenberg, I think, is Dane Liccardo, sorry. I do apologise, is the man who's out there first of all. We're just watching Lockie Burke on screen at the minute. We'll go on board the bonnet cam for Lockie Burke as he's been through turn 1. Turn 2, tucking it in. We want to run it out to the outside. Histon ahead of him has just gone a little bit wide, kicked up a little bit of dust. This is the long, the back straight they call it. The long back straight. You want to break just sort of around 150 metre mark here. Big lock up for Stenberg ahead. This one's a bit of a weird corner. Some drivers take a slightly bit of a different line compared to what Berkey's just done there. Some drivers like to take that first apex and run it sort of out and all the way over to the joining road. Those joining roads on this circuit actually form part of a national circuit or a club circuit. There's a couple of different layouts here. Through turn 4, through turn 5, there's a little bit of curb, not too much. You don't want to upset the balance of the car. Run down the next straight to the final corner at turn 6. And this is the one corner on the circuit I said that essentially is the same all the way around. It's a 180-degree corner, and then you come out of there and up to the line. And for Burke, it is a 107.9.
Yeah, good run for Burke there of the runners. Dan Liccardo actually been down quite handily already, so maybe not quite his best run there early on in qualifying. Top currently is Luke Rosella, surprise, who's already done a 7.2, so he's doing the same thing he did in qualifying, getting his quick laps out the way early. He's probably going to sit out the back in the well, to be fair, even though it's winter right now, it's going to be fairly warm up there in Queensland, so you might still have the ice bath running to get the muscles relaxed, but
humid. I think humid's probably the word.
It's probably more humid, yeah. Probably actually wanting a dehumidifier more than an ice bath at this point. But yeah, Brendan Ross up to second. So again, some of that good pace from race 1 carrying on again, and Corey McFarlane currently sitting in third. So that's pretty good running for him considering his topsy-turvy first race.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Pretty good start for him on this qualifying session. McFarlane, having started from the rear of the grid last time out, finds himself in third. Actually he's actually up at his PB at the second sector split, but Mugford's on a fast lap of his own. He's come across him at the wrong time here, so McFarlane's probably going to have to bail on this one, I would think. Oh, Brunswick!
Hans, yeah, that's... I just saw that in the back of shot. He's still hugging the wall. He's taken out one of the outward broadcasting signs. He's going to get a fine in the mail for that one.
He will.
Yeah, he's just caught the wall, and then I suppose just to try and avoid getting in anyone's way, I suppose, and risking the grip differential from trying to get back onto the track, it's just hugged the wall, and if this was iRacing, he would have picked up a good slew of incident points every time he pinged off that wall.
Oh, he would have, actually. It's actually one thing I've got to get my iRacing done for this week. My professional life has overtaken my personal life this year, or for this week rather, and I haven't had a chance to do a huge amount for anything of my own personal volition, so I'd like to try and get that knocked off over the weekend if I can. As Brett Foley on screen, currently P9, another one of the drivers that started ROG in the last race, through no fault of his own. Game crash for him. So let's actually have a look, Rhodey, at where all those drivers currently are that started at the rear of the grid. So we'll do it in order. So Will Devon is currently sitting in the pit lane. He started rear of grid, currently P3 at the moment. Brenton Foley, we just saw on screen, there goes Corey McFarlane. He was off the rear too. He's currently 4th. And then you've got... actually, I was watching Foley nearly do it as well.
Interrupt because Foley very nearly did a locky lock.
He very nearly did. And the other man I was looking for a bit further down the order was Joe Mugford. He currently sits in 13th after the first runs. He was off the back as well. Steve Warwick currently 19th. And he was actually a late entry and all of that. So here's Foley's moment. Did he do it off the same curb? Yes, he did. Oh, and he just managed to get it back down. That's great control. Great control to keep it from tipping all the way over.
I will say he's 2 for 2 for artistic moments in qualifying. I've just cut to it for Lockie Lock. He's managed to get a very nice, perfect 360-degree pirouette off the curb with the exit of turn 2. Came across inside the circuit, but kept pointing the right way, or got pointing the right way at the end of it. He has chosen to obviously give that lap up. But yeah, he's if nothing else, Lockie Lock getting his sponsors some airtime by showing off in qualifying.
Yep, certainly is. Now, who's not performing at the moment in qualifying? Just keeping an eye on things here. Roselle is still at the top of the 107.267 for him. Not as fast as his first qualifying lap in the earlier session tonight. But he's going all right. So Lewis Wedding's the one I'm interested in here, Rhodey. Here he comes. He was up the pointing end of the field in Quali 1. He's 15th at the moment. Got a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, I will say, just something to keep an eye on the live timing as well. Kurt Stenberg just went purple through the first sector, so he's going to move up a little bit as well. He's another driver out of position. He's currently at the back end of the top 10.
He's actually aborted, Rhodey. I just saw him. He was off the road. I'm just looking to see where it was. I think at turn 4 and 5, I think. Yeah, he outbraked himself into 5, so he's got to go again here, but you're right, he's got some work to do. Right, Wedding's up. Wait, no, he's not. He was up on his personal PB, and he's just mowed down one of the ad boards there. And that's he's going to have to get a wriggle on pretty quickly, I think. He'll go back to the lane, I think, get another set of tyres and go again. Yes, he's keeping an eye on what he's up to at the moment. He's going in, and he's only got 2.5 minutes to get back out and get going again.
Yeah, that was the sort of wobble that we saw from Cheese. It's just the car snapped the other way for Lewis Wedding. The advantage of him doing it there, at least, was he was able to use the little shortcut in the, I think it's the Sportsman or the Club and layout. They've got about 40 foot layouts around Queensland Raceway, just different uses of the shortcut roads. But I can't remember the naming for that specific layout, but he was able to use the link road to get back to the pit lane about 20 seconds sooner than he otherwise would have. And yeah, he is currently leaving the lane to go again. Yeah,
so he's leaving the lane now. So too Steve Burko is leaving the lane for the final time. So it's happy hour in qualifying. Less than 2 minutes remaining. There goes Braxton Stancliffe exiting stage left. off of turn 5. And just seeing a few drivers putting some times here. So Mugford's just popped himself up into P6, so that's a good solid improvement for him. He moves to a 107.889, 3/100ths of a second behind Termo, 107.859, and then it's another 10th of a second from Termo to McFarlane, 107.759.
Yeah, there's some very tight gaps happening here. We did see even tighter gaps actually happening during practice where drivers were, I think it was 3 1,000ths, or 1 1,000th, and then there was a dead heat in time at one point as well with, I think, Termo and might have been Mugford actually. No, some good pace coming out now as well. Like Corey McFarlane didn't maybe quite the pace in the qualifying one, but he's definitely got the wick up now. He's outside the podium, as it were, and actually he hasn't improved. I think Brendan Ross might have. I think I saw somebody
McFarlane
improving
has.
that.
McFarlane
has improved just slightly, yeah.
Improved his time, but not the place. That's the important thing. He improved his time, moved a little bit further ahead of Termo, but not the place. Mugford was up to the second sector split, and then he lost some time in the third sector, so he stays P6. Rosella, we're just having a bit of a look at just there. He was, he's now up on his own PB at the first sector split, trailing Will Devonish on track here. Now, qualifying record that was set in the first qualifying session, 106.960 to Luke Rosella, is indeed the new circuit record, and he's on a 6.989 at the moment. So looking to see if he can grab another record or break his own record, but it doesn't look like he's going to do it on this occasion. He is 2 tenths down at that second sector split there, so I don't expect him to improve on this one. Will Devonish just ahead of him on the circuit, and he does not improve, stays third. Rosella does not improve his time, stays in first. Stenberg, what's he up to? 4th place currently at the moment. Snipes is going to let him go on the run to turn number 4 here. Is he up or is he down? What does the clock say? Can he move off the same row he's on with Will Devonish, or what'll happen here? Doesn't look like it's going to happen at this juncture. 1.5 tenths down on his own split. Although it can be said, it looks like the throttle issue, Rhodey, here has been resolved.
It has, yeah. I was just having a look at the other driver we were looking at earlier, Lewis Wedding. He did actually pop up in the end to P6 on his last lap through. Which is pretty good. It's a bit more where he was looking, maybe not quite the pace he was wanting to have, but a lot better than the 15th he was sitting in. And I think we're out of drivers running. Termo is out there on a lap, but he's on an in lap. Daniel Cox might be finishing a lap now, actually, so he might maybe improve.
He is. He's up at the second sector split as well, and he's currently 10th, and he goes to 7th, so found a little bit extra time. So that's a smart lap, and moves him onto a row with Termo. That pushes Termo, Mugford, and Foley down into position 10. So your top 10 after that one, Luke Rosella and Brendan Ross. So it's the same front row that we had in race number 1. Will Devonish and Kurt Stenberg, the two title protagonists yet again, will share a row. They'll share the second row. Corey McFarlane and Lewis Wedding 5th and 6th, so probably Corey's best qualifying he's had, I think, in ASR so far in his short time in 5th place. Wedding in 6th, Cox 7th, Termo 8th, Joe Mugford in 9th, and Brenton Foley in 10th. That back end of the top 10, Rhodey, I'm going to read you some numbers here just so you can get an idea. So from Cox in 7th, down to Lockie Burke in 12th. There's a 10th and 3/4 between them there. So yeah, Cox on an 8.06, 7.806, an 8.59 for Termo, an 8.89 for Mugford, a 9.02 for Foley, a 9.52 for Brunswick, and a 9.91 for Burke. Throw Liccardo in there as well, an 8 flat. Rutledge with an 8.188. And that takes us down to 14th, and Ed Burko on an 8.222. So there's 4 tenths separating, a good 8 or 9 drivers at the end of that one there. So this midfield, I think the important thing is you look at the qualifying times and you go on just on pace numbers, the midfield is jam-packed. But when it comes to race pace, I think that's where it truly will be decided. Because we did see some pretty big pack running in that last race.
It'll all come to where the strategy play has been. A lot of the drivers, as we saw, were running, at least based off the pitting, we're assuming they're running softs. I think we only saw, the only driver we really expected running the hards, maybe 2 drivers running the hards was Kurt Stenberg, but his pace drop-off was too much for it to be a hard tyre, which you found out later was the throttle issue. And Luke Rosella, who solved that question for us in the interview by revealing that he started the race on worn tyres, which would explain why the thing wobbled so much at the start. And especially with them running aggressively low tyre pressures that are going to be about trying to conserve the tyre. So basically forcing the tyre to take the longest possible time to heat up and therefore avoiding the wear for as long as possible.
That's right.
So that's why he had a pretty tardy start. But yeah, nobody out there was a stick in the mud in terms of running the hard tyre. So I think it's a common strategy for guys in racing generally is you have the option of being fast or having fun. Is normally how it breaks down to, where your race might be quicker if you're on the hard tyres, but you spend the time suffering a little bit, as opposed to going there on the softs where, especially if you're playing on penny anyway, you can go out there and actually run as fast as you want to run in the car. And that makes sense for a lot of race drivers because you can't tell a race driver not to be fast. A race driver is going to go as fast as they can go. So, yeah, I know personally we've made that strategy called PBF. We made it at, I think it was Adelaide last year. Back when it was the opening round of the season, we ran the hards for the first race, got some pretty good pace out of them, but just did not enjoy the driving and all just decided, look, we want to have some fun with this and ran the softs. And I imagine, look, any drivers that maybe were running the hards are probably going to consider running the softs because everyone else was, and then they can actually go out there and have a decent crack of a race. So assuming they are going to all be in the same strategy, it just comes down to race pace and also comes down to a degree, your pit stops as well.
That's right. Now, just coming back to another small order of business, we had the track records that we were looking at a little bit earlier on in the night. The qualifying record, we can confirm, is 100% gone. So the 106.960 for Luke Rosella, that is a new qualifying track record for the Supercars. The other one that we needed to go back and just double check to make sure we had the numbers right, because it is a fairly long-standing record. The race lap record for Ethan Warren, 107.736. That is also gone and fallen to Luke Rosella tonight. He's now lowered that to a 107.511. So a couple of records broken. One of the longest standing lap records that's been broken in ASR. There's another one that we're looking forward to seeing if it actually gets broken in a couple of weeks from now, Rhodey. This long-standing 1 minute 11 flat at Townsville, it's held by JP Courier, is a bit of a sore point for a number of drivers in this paddock.
Yeah, look, Courier jumped in and out in a flash, more or less, in the 2019 season. Had some very distinctive liveries. Was one of the few guys back then running chrome liveries. But I think he ran through two or three different liveries across the 4 or 5 rounds he raced at. And he made no hash of getting there and making some friends, and really doubled down on that at Townsville. Obviously, good qualifying run, but I got into probably one of the more famous / infamous crashes we've had in Supercars in ASR. Bit of 2-wide contact with Billy Dougal-Salonga that managed to roll. I think it was just JP's car. And rule at the time, and the rule still is, if you roll your car, you return to pit lane. So that put him out a bit, but he was not a happy chappy after the race. And rather than deal with a stewarding outcome that he felt might do him a disservice, he took his toys and went elsewhere. And he's still out there doing some sim racing. He's tied in with Jinx Shifters. He had actually Jinx, Simon Richardson, aka Jinx, running in the team with him in the Pro-Am car, and obviously still promoting the Jinx gear. But there's a few drivers that would like to see that record toppled, and there's a few drivers in the field this year that could probably take a crack at that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's definitely a possibility that record might fall in a couple of weeks' time. Have to wait and see when we get there. 3 weeks for Supercars, 2 weeks if you're in Dev Series. I'm sure a number of the Dev Series drivers are going to be looking to probably wildcard, I think, for Townsville. Keep in mind, Townsville, everybody, is a 200-kilometre event as well, which means it's going to be a top 10 shootout as well as qualifying, and then a 200k race after that. Now, we did have a 200k race. I think it actually was that 2019 season, Roddy, correct me if I'm wrong here, that we had the 200k race, I think, where Courier set that race lap record and had that infamous rollover.
That does sound about right. It's going back a few years, but it was a fairly long race from what I remember. So that would make sense. And no, like the 200k race format's to be really interesting. It's really interesting around Townsville because Townsville lends itself to sprint racing quite a bit at the same time. It's a street circuit. People tend to get pretty feisty around there. I mean, I can talk from experience. I've had one of my more famous, infamous blow-ups at a Townsville race. And actually, I've seen what was, I think, one of the earliest from the start crashes in another league as well at Townsville. And I and a couple of drivers that are actually on the grid tonight were involved in that in some degree. I did my typical thing of seeing an accident and not braking for it. But to be fair, all but 2 cars were already wrecked anyway, so I wasn't going to make things any worse. Yeah, running it to 200k will be interesting, and it gives us a chance to do the shootouts and laps around Townsville at 10 tenths and 11 tenths are always really cool stuff to watch. There's plenty of curbs to hop. There's corners that are maybe just not quite full throttle, or maybe you just don't quite have the grip for. The run down, I think it's the run up and over and whatnot with Charles Towers Road, the right-hander. That one's a fun one because the elevation change sort of bucks the car around and takes the weight off the tyres, and the tyres start to squirm, and you're running with like 105% of the grip you actually have. And it's a wild ride, but it's a really good track, and it should produce some really good racing.
Yeah, I think so too. The memories I have of Townsville is being rear-ended by a number of drivers, and then that was that was the start of my hiatus, I think, in racing for a little bit, mainly focused on the broadcasting side after that. And I mean, it's a good effect too. We've actually had some pretty good racing. Been happy to be bringing all the broadcasts for Supercars GT3, filling in the odd occasion for a few other particular series as well. I know I've done some of the Dev Series broadcasts for Lewis Wedding when he's been away, whether it be on honeymoon or for personal things. So it's been good just to see a number of those been brought to life. And I think probably happy to continue doing that for the foreseeable future, like we are about to do for race number 2. We're just getting everybody gridded up at the moment. Race 13 out of the 22 race season here, Brady. So round 6 is still another 11, so still another 5 rounds to go after this one. There's 11 total, and we have still got the drop rounds to factor in as well. Now, people are wondering at home how the drop rounds work. You actually get it's the same level of points you get across 3 races or 2 races or 1 race is available to you. So it's whatever your worst one is for that. Here's the grid with Brady. Yeah,
so starting from pole, second time tonight, Luke Rosella. Hopefully he's got some fresh tyres on for his sake now that he doesn't have such a wobbler of a start. Starting from second, I believe a repeat from race 1 as well, is Brendan Ross, Pixel Sim Sports. He's been showing some really good pace tonight, and he's only another 26 laps away potentially from breaking into that 1200-day last win record. Third is Will Devonish. He's going to be putting a strong fight to these two after his strong drive from the back in the first race. With Kurt Stenberg out of 4th, he's got those pedal issues fixed. Should be pretty smooth sailing for him as well. Corey McFarlane up to 5th, doing a very good run for the AAR team actually. The best of the qualifiers for AAR, with Lewis Wedding in 6th, second of the Pixel Sim Sports cars. 7th is Daniel Cox for Answer Motorsports. He's had a pretty good run, with Termo in 8th, another good qualifying result for Termo. 9th is Joe Mugford for TriStar Racing. I think probably is first, if not first in a while, for a top 10 start, with Brenton Foley starting out of 10th. Hans Brunswick starting out of 11th, again leading his AR teammate Lachlan Burke out of 12th. Dane Liccardo starting out of 13th position for Liccardo Racing, with Cam Rutledge in 14th. Steve Burko for 15th, that's another CRE pairing there, with NZ Snipes starting from 16th for Team Tanner for Kiwi Sim Sports. Nathan Higginson in 17th, Braxton Sankcliffe in 18th. Lockie Lock in 19th, Steve Warwick in 20th, and Chi starting off the back of the grid for Kiwi Sim Sports and Automech. And the cars have gridded up now, so we are about to get going. It's only 2 lights at this track, and they're out, and we're off, and Luke Rosella has actually managed to convert their start a little better than last time. Brendan Ross actually, this time, the one with the poor start, is Kurt Stenberg tries to go on the outside at turn 1.
He is indeed, and Stenberg's got a pretty good launch off a second row there as well. Will Devonish with his trademark sort of not too good and not great starts. He's now boxing on a bit with Corey McFarlane at the back here, but Stenberg up to second place. Ross in the tow, both of them in the tow of Luke Rosella as they head down to turn number 1. What happens here? Does Rosella give it up early, or does he decide he wants to fight it? Oh, there's some contact. Little bit of contact there, little bit of a hip and shoulder behind from Devonish. Oh, and Stenberg went around, I think, as well. Has he gone completely around? He has. He went completely around. I'm not sure, was that all on his own? That's a bit of a weird one. We'll have to go back and pick that one up, because there he is. He's now back in 12th place with Nathan Higginson. And then there was a late send from Will Devonish in there as well. So let's get eyes on this with Luke Rosella and Stenberg. There was a little bit of contact here. Rosella locked a brake, understeered a little bit, gave Stenny a bit of a shove, and then that's all on his own. Wow.
No, that was uncharacteristic, but again, we mentioned, Luke running some low tyre pressures, Kurt Stenberg, part of the same setup team, potentially also running some low tyre pressures, and just having to work those tyres hard to get pressure up and temp up in the start means that, they're a bit of a sitting duck out there at the start, especially trying to get out of the slow corners. He's currently in what can only be a very spirited battle with Nathan Higginson and Cam Rutledge, drivers that are, maybe not quite of his pace, but he's back there with them, and he's going to have to pass them cleanly, legally to get his spots back, and they're within their rights to not make it easy for him.
They are, and Higginson's looking for a move on him as well. Inside, outside, down the outside. This could be interesting. Cam's actually doing a really good job to hold position here. He's making Stenny earn this every way or step of the way. And Cam himself has actually been pretty handy around this track. He's had some good results here in the past. He's been picking up his pace year on year every time we've been here. And getting his fist out. Oh, he's just bowled a little bit wide though, and that just gives it up to Stenny, and it gives up the spot to Higginson. So just as we pump up his tyres, he stuffs it.
Yeah, that was just a knock. It was like just 5 k's an hour too quick into the corner and just pushed him wide. You really push the limits around here, and then the grass is very inviting and very slow. So that's actually sort of put him off rhythm, and has actually put him under attack from Braxton Stancliffe now as well.
It has indeed. Braxton's going to be all over him and down turn 3 as well. Higginson has gone through him as well. So Brendan Ross is now the cork in the champagne bottle here. Rosella started to bugger off into the distance and leaving Ross to fight with McFarlane.
Yeah, and they weren't too far off each other in qualifying. This is actually all the cars currently sitting, with the exception of McFarlane, they're all sitting in qualifying order. That's it. McFarlane, probably as far the same setup team as, obviously running in Luke's team. So I imagine the same sort of setup data pool, same sort of issue as Kurt there a couple of laps early, just obviously getting the rear a bit too excited out of turn 3. He nearly risked looping as well. Actually, Will Devonish behind was a little sideways as well. So a lot of drivers either running very low tyre pressures or just really pushing the limits of how much grip they have available to them to try and really optimise runs down these straights. But they're all sort of holding station at this point. Brendan Ross, running out in second, but he's not really having to defend too hard to keep that position. He's able to run his own race. He did out-qualify Corey McFarlane as Luke Rosella sets the fast lap of the race already. He out-qualified McFarlane, and he's showing the pace over McFarlane just enough. Will Devonish is actually the one coming in to sort of challenge it here. Will did out-qualify Corey, but Corey got the better start there. Will had a bit of a wobble in the racing that was happening early. So this is going to be a battle that's thrown askew for a little bit. And Lewis Wedding just with a little watching brief back there, far enough back that if something happens between these 2 or these 3 cars, that he's far enough back to avoid it and capitalise.
He is, and on top of that, there's another battle brewing a bit behind him as well. So Wedding in 5th, you're right, keeping and watching brief. Then you've got Foley heading Mugford, Brunswick, and then you've got Ricardo, Burke and Stenberg, all in this little train of 6 cars heading up to turn 4 at the moment. So we saw there was some fireworks in race 1. Where there was a bit of a fight on going up here. I would expect that maybe there might be a little bit more to unfold in the next few minutes or so, especially when it comes to these guys a bit further back in this train of 6. So Ricardo, Burke and Stenberg. It's a bit of a difficult situation here for Stenberg, having to pick his way through. Got 2 guys that know each other pretty well and race pretty hard and pretty fair. In Lockie Burke. Dane will definitely get his elbows out, and there goes Stenberg. He's actually got that job done. Burke actually went a bit too far to the outside of turn 1, opened the door, let the TTR number 47 through, and now he's going to make a move on the Commodore of Ricardo just ahead. There he is.
Yeah, I guarantee even if Ricardo's making similar mistake to that degree, he won't be rolling up the red carpet for Kurt. As we saw, even in his last race, he's still not going to be history, and other events outside the racing have conspired in the last week as well. That they're definitely not the best of friends right now. So that's reflecting in some of the on track action we've seen so far tonight, and probably what we're going to see in the next couple of corners as well.
It's about to happen, I think. Here we go. So there's a pass I think is probably going to be sized up here at turn 6. And Ricardo, as you said before, there he goes. He's parking it right down the middle of the road. He's giving enough space on the outside. So that's the important thing there. He's not encroaching, or from that broadcast angle anyway, it didn't look like he was encroaching into Stenberg's, I guess the space that he needs to be afforded. So that part's the critical part. The bit that you're going to be careful of here is if you move under brakes. And there's a bit of shoving going on here. So this is Stenberg, I think, now trying to set up the run out of turn 2, down into thing. Oh, and he's a bit hard as well.
I'm not sure whether Stenberg maybe getting a better run there, but maybe Dane choosing to delay the throttle, which is I'm not going to get into the argument semantics of how viable that is as a driving maneuver, but he has in the end run a little wide there and opened the door for Stenberg, and actually almost nearly opened the door for Burke as well. He sort of got the door shut in his face, but Burke's got some good run through here, and he's probably going to look to get a pass done in the next few corners as well. Yeah,
Dane moved to defend that move from Burke as well, and Burke goes around. There you go. He won't be, and that's a bit of a what's he doing there? That's not great, and he's actually shortcut the circuit a fair way there. Wouldn't be surprised to see him actually pick up a track violation for that, but he did that all on his own. I don't think there's anything wrong with what Dane did. He moved to defend the position, and unfortunately for Berkey, he has lost out of that one. There's a bit of contact, I think, going on a bit further back there, as well as some sideways action from Higginson and Cox, who are heading a nice big long train at the moment, heading down to turn 1. Now, I do want to pick up something here as well. There was actually a pretty poor lap for Brendan Ross about 2 laps ago, and Devonish slipped through on him down at turn 4. Now Devonish is boxing on with Corey McFarlane down here at turn 3. So he's decided it's time to make his move. He's made the move on Ross. He's now looking to make the move on McFarlane. He's on the wrong side of the track to do it, though.
Yeah, he's going to have to almost enforce an over-under from Corey, which he's sort of done by forcing Corey to the inside. And we've seen this with a couple of... we saw this with Ross on Rosella in the first race, even from behind, forcing Rosella to take the inside line into corners and forcing him to run the compromised line, which is sort of what Will's doing here to McFarlane. Same sort of idea is to put the driver in front where you want them, to sort of force them to run a slower line. That said, Will's potentially looking at the inside here at 1, but he's not going to get a move done. There's not really room to go too wide at 1 unless you're already right alongside. And won't get anything done through here. The best chance for him to get a run.
He's ruined it. He
ruined
it. Did he actually? He was wide there at 2, and I thought for a minute Rossi was going to get underneath him and keep going, but unfortunately I thought maybe Will's actually been able, for Rossi unfortunately, he's able to defend that. That's a late send, and he's got a brake locked as well. He skates through the corner, doesn't quite get away with it though. McFarlane goes for the over and under, but Devonish is now on the right side of the road for this one, so for somehow it's worked out for him, but he's got to hold it now up at 4, and can he get it stopped and get it down to the apex? He can.
That was an extremely willing move. I could see that he managed to optimise the run actually out of the second corner. He actually managed to get a slight increase in speed on McFarlane. I don't think it was enough for a move, but credit to Will, he committed to that one. In the end, locking Will in the process, probably get a flat spot he's going to have to nurse for a little bit, at least the next few laps. And Corey made sure that Will knew that he wasn't a fan of getting dove on like that. There's still a bit of contact between the pair of them. I think it's just Corey maybe getting a slightly better run through 1 and 2 over Will, and just catching speed difference at a bad moment. It's not doing much for Corey because he's still stuck behind Will. That said, he has got a pretty good run and coming down here now, so he might be looking to resend it. No, actually he has pulled back in.
Yeah. Great exchange between those two for 2 laps as well. There was a bit of space afforded on a couple of occasions there. Corey did open the steering at turn 3 as well, and when Will went through there, and even though he pinched the brake and there was a little bit of contact there, there was some space afforded up here at turn 5 as well when Will stuck it up the inside, and then Corey held him wide for the next run down to turn 6. So good, hard and fair racing between those two. I'd give that a big tick. And a good fair and bit in combat. The bit for these two now will be about undercut or overcut or what happens. Here goes McFarlane again, just looking down the inside, just sticking his nose in there. Will has to give him a little bit of space, a little bit wider on the corner. He gets a little bit better drive just to keep the number 15 Mustang ahead just for the moment. But yeah, the bit I'll be interested in now is when we get to the pit stop window is how this unfolds between cars 15 and 094. We're going to keep an eye on that one because that battle is not settled yet, and I dare say is going to go or continue to be disputed for a number of laps.
And I will say that as they continue to fight this little battle here, as Corey continues to look at resending it, all he's going to do is slow the pair of them down, which is going to start bringing the Pixel Sim Sports cars in as well. So
and these guys as well.
Going to become a
and these
Sorry,
guys,
I'll let you go there.
And these guys on screen as well at the moment are going to be in it. Foley's just lost a position to Mugford. Stenberg's now boxing on with Foley as well. The longer that McFarlane and Devonish continue to fight, it's going to drag these three cars up to the rear of them. They're only about 300 or 350 metres behind them on track at the moment. Devonish and Co are down at the last corner now. These guys are halfway down the back that final chute towards turn 6. So looking at time-wise there, you can see it's about 4.5 seconds. And Brunswick's actually tucked in here as well. So he's gaining on this group that continues to fight as well.
Yeah, and Hans, he's actually having a pretty good run now. Now he's back into the race session. He's up 2 spots from qualifying, having qualified just outside the 10. He's tacked on pretty well to the back of Foley and Stenberg here, and just able to pick up their lines and pick up their draft. And actually, 3 cars in a train like that is going to give some pretty strong suction and draft down these straights, which is what's probably helping to keep Hans in the picture for this. And same sort of thing with Lewis Wedding earlier in the race with the lead battle, or the battle over second. If anything happens, and look, these guys are all pretty amicable to each other, but at the same time, there is definitely a bit of excitement in this battle. If something happens, then he's in a good position to capitalise. He
is, and Foley darting, diving, looking everywhere. Stenberg's now gone through on Mugford as well. So that moves him up to 6th place. Brunswick now tucked onto the back of Foley. This battle's starting to unfold everywhere as well. Oh no, Burko's just got it stuck on the marbles. He's gone a bit wide at 3, and that lets Steve Warwick through. So that was becoming quite a spirited battle between Steve Warwick, Steve Burko and Cam Rutledge, and I guess to a degree Lockie Lock as well is a bit back there playing a bit of an over and under game with Cheese at the moment. He was in the Automac Nissan, the gold and black one. Higginson, ironically, is actually retired from this race. I did see him have a spin early on as Rutledge pits. And I think Turmo may have been into the lane too, because
Turmo has pitted.
He's gone a lap down. Snipes did Snipes just come out of the? No, he didn't. I was just looking at the lap counters just to see what his lap time was. I thought he'd been into the lane. It was that close to the pit exit. No, he hasn't. He has not pitted. So only 2 stoppers so far: Turmo and now Cam Rutledge. But we're in that. It's early-ish in the pit stop window. Whoa, that was that Cheese? I think it was. Yeah, it was Cheese going for a bit of a wild ride off of turn 2. Let's have a look at that on the replay.
Oh.
Looks like he might have done something similar to what Braxton Stancliffe did in race 1, where he sort of got himself unsettled on the curb here, did he? No, he's just picked up the throttle too early. Not as bad as Stancliffe. Oh, actually, I take that back. That's probably a little bit worse to come to a complete stop.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Oh, looks like we may have lost roadie temporarily there, I think.
Hairpin.
There you go.
He did run wide at the last corner and just brought the car into the lane and drove into the garage and hit the escape key. So I'd say could be a car issue, could be a race just not going the way he wants it to, or something's happened outside the sim for him and he's had to step away.
Well, I know he's had some dramas as well, Higginson, with regards to, I think, a piece of his sim rig came apart at some point. McFarlane just been in for a stop. I've also just seen Lockie Burke and Dane Liccardo pit together line astern, and they're leaving the lane line astern as well. So people starting to cycle through here. Rutledge has stopped. Turmo's off the road. It's actually just been off the road at turn number 4, and the race leader's in. Luke Rosella comes in for a stop, so Devonish will take over the lead. Lewis Wedding takes over 3rd. Ross takes over 2nd. The Pixel Sim Sport cars go through. Stenberg also goes through. And we're getting a slow train of cars coming in for stops. I think Mugford looks like he's in as well. And I think Brunswick's come with him. Snipes
All
too.
right. I wasn't a comment on all that, but I've had a new form of crash where I basically just got lagged out of the session. So I was tabbing through cars running while nobody was there, and I thought the server had died, but nope, it's just me. So I will be back in a second.
There we go, that's you. So we'll keep tabs on things here. We'll Rody sorts the game out. So yeah, Brunswick, Mugford, Snipes, all coming in. There's another car in the back, a shot there. Looks like that's the 16th placed car of Cheese. So he's in. So we're in the pit stop window here. What does the race leader do here? Will Devonish has got handy margin, but he will have to stop. His teammate in there behind him, Cam Rutledge, will get that lap back when Devonish decides to pit. Okay, Pixel Sim Sport strategy, there we go. In goes Lewis Wedding, and Brendan Ross continues on. So the first of the true stoppers that we're looking at here is Luke Rosella. He's currently 9th on the road. He's actually got some traffic. It's not lap traffic. It is, actually this is technically 4th position. Steve Warwick yet to stop. And Rosella's finding it a little bit difficult actually to get past Steve Warwick. And finally gets it done the long way around the outside of the final corner. So on to turn 1 he goes. That moves him now back up to 3rd. There's been a number of drivers coming into the lane ahead of him. So as you said before, Lewis Wedding's been into the lane. He's now actually rejoined the race in 9th place. I think Stenberg looks like he's been in as well. And still looking for when the current race leader comes in. Will Devonish is here this lap. Yep, here he goes. So that answers that question. I probably expect to see Brendan Ross in as well. So in he comes. And then that will cycle the lead of this race back to Luke Rosella. Still got a couple of corners to go here. His gap is going to be a little bit reduced at the front, having to go around Steve Warwick the long way. His outlap was a little bit poor. He's coming down to the final corner now. So Devonish and Ross are just in the process of leaving the lane at the moment. See if we can actually get them up on screen. There they are, just leaving the lane. Rosella's about to flash across the line. He's gone. And there's the other two in the back of shots. So they're going to come out in what is effectively... Oh no, and Brendan Ross, drive-through penalty for speeding in pit lane. He is done. And that is going to elevate his teammate, I think, up to Ed Will. It'll elevate his teammate onto the podium. So what a disaster for Brendan Ross.
Yeah, it was. They almost predicted this one. Lewis Wedding reckoning he'd be back on the podium again in race 2, and Rossi taking a bit more of, I suppose, a wider look at things, realising what the pace was of the field and thinking it might be a bit questionable. And well, it's not going to be a top 5. It's going to be a few spots behind that, unfortunately, as we've seen actually just in the background of the battle between Lewis Wedding and Kurt Stenberg. Brenton Foley getting late onto brakes, trying to get a move on with Hans Brunswick. Twice now in races, Hans has had someone fly past him under brakes, missing the brake marker. Luckily, both times he hasn't been caught up in it. And yeah, that's dropped Foley out of that little battle pack and put him back with Joe Mugford.
Has indeed. Now, in all of this as well, as Luke Rosella sets a new fastest lap for the race, that actually now becomes a new race lap record. He's shaved a bit more time off of that relative to the race lap record he set in race 1, as Ross is now serving his drive-through penalty. There has been a change. There's actually been an undercut performed as well. So McFarlane has actually jumped Will Devonish through the stops. Now, I'm not sure how this has happened. I would imagine that McFarlane may have taken only 2 tyres, possibly 2 rears in the fuel, maybe, or 2 fronts in fuel. I'm not quite sure how he's done this, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on those lap times to see how they deteriorate, because there's Devonish in the back of shot. So I'm going to keep an eye to see how that's going to unfold, as Stenberg is now locking horns with Lewis Wedding. Again, these two have been side by side through a couple of corners now for the better part of a lap. Stenberg now finally looks like he might have that one nailed, and Wedding doesn't fight it any further. So that was actually quite a good exchange. Jeez, I thought Stenberg was going over for a minute there. He had the 2 left side tyres well and truly in the air, and very quickly managed to get it back on the deck.
Yeah, he's going to still hang around Lewis Wedding, and he's going to have eyes forward for at least until he feels like Hans Brunswick behind is a bit of a concern. Hans has had pretty good pace as well so far tonight. So if he's got a crack at what'll be a top 6, but if he's got a crack at another spot on the rostrum, he'll definitely have a go for it. And Lewis Wedding, I mean, he's no Darren Kemp or no Netheralmian, but he's still pretty handy in the defensive game.
He is indeed. Now, I'm just having a look at someone's times here, Rhodey. I'm actually keeping an eye on this man, Steve Burko. He's yet to stop. And he's doing lap times that are in the time bracket that I would have suggested would have been on the hard tyre. His best laps are in the high sort of minute 9s. He's been consistently in the 10s and 11s. He's got Stenberg and Wedding bearing down on him. Still going to have 8 laps to go after this one. So I think he's going to be hard-pressed to hang on to this. But could he be going for a no-stop?
I think possibly. It's like Steve didn't have the best of races, at least sort of for where he assesses himself to be in the first race. So this could be a bit of a, I'm going to be at the back probably anyway, or where I don't want to be anyway. You know, I might as well roll the dice, and look, all power to him. I mean, a lot of drivers, even people sim sports that are currently running the same strategy as the rest of the top 10 at this point. Lewis Wedding's a big fan of people doing something outside of the same strategy call. I know, some of the GT3 commentators that we've had as well love that. Bagsy and Fletty, I know, get quite excited when someone does something different. And yeah, you know what? Go for it. It might not be, a real big result, because at this point in the race, he's got people on fresh, soft tyres bearing down on him. And these aren't, the mid-pack drivers. They're, your Lewis Weddings and your Kurt Stenbergs. But what if you can get out there and have a good bit of defensive run, and probably still get a top 10, depending on how the rest of the top 10 is actually spread out. Could be a better result than what he was expecting to get from running the conventional strategy.
I agree, and I'm a big fan of the unconventional stuff as well. I think if you can do the math and you can do the homework and do the laps that you need to do and the times you need to do them in, it's definitely a plausible option. Now we're looking to see Stenberg down the inside here. I think Burko's a bit of a sitting duck here. Down at turn 6, and he is. Wedding was very late in there as well, gave Burko a little bit of a shove. Remember, those two are former teammates at Blue Simsport a couple of years ago. Actually, I think it was last year. I think
it was last year.
That was the last time that they were together in a race car team together, and they were actually the homologation team for one of the homologation teams for the Mustang when it came to be. So no love lost between those two, but of course they're still good friends off the track. And Wedding now looks like he's going. Where's Brunswick going? He doesn't know who to go with.
As I said, as soon as Hans Brunswick had a sniff of something, he'd be getting straight into it, and he's in there. He's already in an elbow deep in chance for a spot here. He's potentially going to get 2 with Burko. That's a bit of an easier one to conclude, especially if Burko is on those hards. He's not going to get the run off the corner. Hans very precisely closing the door as soon as he got past and was clear of the pink Mustang. And now he's setting his sights on Lewis Wedding, who managed to get through pretty cleanly as well. But Lewis Wedding maybe not quite having the pace that he wants to have at this end of the race. And Hans Brunswick can smell a bit of blood.
He can indeed, and he's going to try and hone in on Lewis Wedding over the course of the next 6 laps, see if he can pick up one more spot. But I mean, good on Burko, as I say, cranked it sideways there. He's now vulnerable to Foley and Mugford, and he's probably going to be vulnerable to Liccardo and Burke as well. So it hasn't paid off, but good on him for trying something different.
Yeah, exactly. It's somebody's going to try. Otherwise, the racing can get a little vanilla if everyone's doing exactly the same thing, give or take which lap they pit on. So, he might still end up with a better result. He's I'm just thinking about the laps now. He has got another 6 laps to go from here. So, a top 10 fights to be in the margin. He's actually going to have another
reset.
Resend. No, I looked at that and thought there's no way he's pulling that up because he does not have the grip. And case in point, look, he's just out there having a crack. And look, the top 10 is currently right behind him. I'm not sure he's going to hold off Dan Liccardo or Lockie Burke there. Both charging pretty well. But, an 11th, I think, is still the best we've seen for Steve so far tonight. So if he can keep the car under him for the next 5 or so laps, then, yeah, he's still going to be in for a good result for himself.
Yeah, I think so too. Just, again, got to think about outside the box sometimes, and thought it might be able to work, but unfortunately for his case, it actually didn't work. Anyway, as I said, good on him for trying. So Liccardo moves up to 9th, Burke moves up to 10th, and then maybe if Burko can just sort of hang with Lockie Burke for a little bit, he might be able to insulate himself from Daniel Cox behind. Now, been keeping an eye on this gap. Corey McFarlane to Will Devonish. It's been pretty stationary for the better part of the last 2 or 3 laps. Devonish did take half a second out of McFarlane about 2 laps ago. Unfortunately for him, the last time around they were pretty evenly matched on the lap time, and now I think Devonish is just prepared to sit there and take the 3rd place. I don't think he's going to try and do anything too rash. He's just going to bring home a chunk of points. And Kurt Stenberg, who's his nearest title rival, there he is, just in the back of shot coming through turns 4 and 5, has got a bit too much ground to make up in these last 4 laps. But Devonish will walk away from tonight, I think, probably having dodged a little bit of a bullet, having really started rear of grid and worked his way up the order to finish, I think it was 5th in that first race, and now going to come home with a podium in race 2.
Yeah, these are the things running at the moment. Yeah, that's it. Like that margin that he had to Kurt Stenberg was closing and closing and closing, and it was probably going to be. This was probably going to, the way things were going pace-wise, at least this is probably the last round that he was going to have the orange number on the window. But as things stand at the moment, off the back of what we're seeing at the moment, he's going to have at least probably another round or 2 that he gets to get those orange numbers.
Yeah, I think so too. Here's Brent Foley. He smells blood in the water now. Hans Brunswick has lost touch with Lewis Wedding, and lost touch in a big way, actually. You can see from Foley's onboard here, he's fallen right back, and Foley's all over him and looking for position number 6.
And I will say, I do like the slight irony in the sense that we're at the stage of the race where everybody's starting to get a little sideways because their tyres aren't quite there, and Foley's the one keeping the car in a straight line. Yeah,
I agree. I think Higginson has pretty much taken over the mantle of being the one that cranks it sideways now. Here he goes, Foley right down the inside. Brunswick doesn't fight it. In fact, Foley just goes through the corner a little bit too far, but he picks up the throttle and will be able to drive it out the other side and comes out just ahead of the 111 Mustang. Oh, Devonish! Sorry, gentlemen. Oh, sorry, everyone. Devonish just looks like... Is he out? Is he blown an engine? What's happened here? I think he's blown an engine or something, or he's had a... Maybe this is a recurrence of the throttle linkage failure that he's had in earlier on in the night. What's happened here? He just rounded up Cheese. We go to the onboard. You can call this for me, Ruddy. He's something's gone wrong here.
Yeah, I was just had a look at the tracks I came out from. I will have to jump on the onboard to see if I can pick up. It's not a blown engine, I don't believe, because it is still accelerating out of 1.
It's still stationary.
I think he comes into 2 and just runs wide and then just comes to a stop. So,
wow,
yeah, sim rig issue, something happening at his end generally. I don't know, but that's opened up the last step of the podium.
It has. It moves Kurt Stenberg up to the last step of the podium as it currently stands right now. And he's got that car going again, actually. So he's going to try and bring it home and try and salvage some points here. And he is going again. He's now gone a lap down. Well, geez, we were talking about drop rounds a few moments ago. Goodness me, looks like both the championship leaders are going to be dropping this round when it comes to the point structure at the end of the day. What a swing of events.
The other way this happened as well is all of a sudden Lewis Wedding is only half a second off of a podium. So he's going to be reignited to have another go again now that he's realised what's happened.
He's threatening again as well, Lewis Wedding. He was actually a little bit quicker than Stenberg. He was actually a full 0.7 of a second quicker last time around. So he's going to be pushing hard to try and, you're right, get that last podium position. But, geez, swings and roundabouts in all of this. In actual fact, the way that this has worked out, I think Stenberg's going to take more points away from this round compared to Devonish with regards to where they finished in all of this. So this has now got major championship implications. You were just talking a few seconds ago, Rody, about the fact that Devonish might not, was looking at the beginning of the night like he might not have the 15, the orange number on the window at the end of the round, and then it was looking likely that he was, and now it doesn't look like he is. Here goes Wedding looking very, very quickly at the inside at turn number 2, but he had to pull out because somebody was...
Cheese off.
Yeah, Cheese was off the circuit there. As he got an opportunity to move back down the inside here, there's Cheese, and right in the background, you're right.
Sent around the outside, actually. Oh, no, he's gone a bit deep, though. He hasn't quite got the run off the corner, actually. Kurt was compromising the inside line, but he's managed to keep the the rear of the car under him. They sort of came at this point about the same speed, so Lewis was close enough to have another crack here at 4, but he has decided not to. So that's probably going to try and get the better run through 4 and 5 and have a look at 6.
Yeah, I think so. We've got our race leader coming to the checkered flag here. Now McFarlane has closed right up on him here. And I don't know what's going to happen here. I think Rosella will get the win. McFarlane's going to settle for second. So that's all done. So Rosella gave up most of the time gained in the final part of the race there. Stenberg's going to just hold off Lewis Wedding for third here. So Stenberg third, Wedding fourth. Who comes up to fifth? So Foley fifth, Brunswick and all of that ended up sixth. So Foley managed to keep Brunswick at bay in all of that one. So that puts Lockie Burke up to 7th place. That moves Dane Liccardo up to 8th, Mugford to 9th, and Brendan Ross, after his drive-through, manages to recover to 10th place. Now Devonish is going to finish 19th, and the first of the cars one lap down, and he actually has finished now. And big change. We thought it was going to be a good round for him with what happened to Stenberg a bit early on, that he was going to hold that points lead. I'm going to have to do the math while we've got the broadcast interviews going, Rody, now, because I'm not so sure that Devonish is going to have the points lead after this one. I think he is the lead points championship lead is going to change over to Kurt Stenberg after tonight's over.
I think so. Yeah, it's. I mean, I think we've been teasing it a little bit here, and we know the power of the commentary curse. We've talked up a few drivers tonight, and in one way or another, something's gone wrong for them not long after. So we've got to watch that. But yeah, no, that was like it's been a roller coaster for Will. You know, he missed out on qualifying, recovered well in the first race. Obviously, had Kurt Stenberg suffer a hardware issue and drop right to the back, which was a free kick for him in the points table. You know, not a bad qualifying result in the second race, for the second race, sorry, and then, you know, was running up near the front, was going to, you know, even get a podium in there, and then, yeah, we don't know what's happened. I haven't seen anything in either the Discord channel or in the live chat to know what's happened with Will. We might find that out at some point, maybe after the stream itself is done, but, yeah, if that's right back down there into the picture for Will, and, yeah, you're right, that probably on math puts him now second in the championship.
Yep, I think so too. I'm led to believe he had a throttle cable linkage snap earlier in the night, and he has also had some brake dramas as well. I think the pedal's been a little bit au fait with whatever's been going on. So I'm wondering if he's had a recurrence of some of those dramas. We're going to find out, as you said, I think after this is over, but I still can't get over the fact we've had such a wild swing in both directions tonight for both the championship leaders and how this is going to pan out. As I said, we're going to have to work this math out in the next couple of minutes, but which will leave, while I'm doing those points, I think it'll probably leave you, as per usual, to do the broadcast interviews. We'll wait to see if we can get them up here for it.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I will say, actually, talking about the championship, and it's something that I totally missed at the start of the night, I missed a chance to mention, talking about some of the drivers who aren't here. One of the notable missing drivers is Tim Redmond, who was third in the points. And you know what? If he were here, he might have actually clawed back some of the gap that he's got. But even as we put in the results from race 1, he's dropped to I think it was 5th at the time. He's continuing to drop obviously down the order. He's accruing no points. He's getting to the point where Lewis Wedding, Brendan Ross have both pulled past him. Foley's going to pull past him, and I think Luke Rosella might jump him as well.
Yep.
We'll get pretty close to it. So really poor night in the end for Timmy. It's unavoidable stuff, unfortunately, that meant he missed the round, but this would have been the round for him to be at because a lot of points were on offer.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, and I know that there's been some family dramas over there for the Redmonds in the last week or so, and we do wish his family, and especially his wife, all the best for her recovery as well. It was a pretty unfortunate and nasty incident, and I know Timmy's had his hands full getting a lot of things sorted in time, and that's unfortunately what happens sometimes. Personal things get in the way, but at the end of the day, it's just, you know, racing on a computer basically for him, and I'm sure he'll be back, and of course in terms of drop rounds, this will end up being his one for sure. Well, top 3 are in here, Rody. We've got another one chalking up a win for Luke Rosella. We've got another podium protagonist in Luke Rosella, and Kurt Stenberg. And we've got a maiden ASR podium here in Corey McFarlane. Where would you like to start?
I think I will start with Corey McFarlane because it has been a little while since we've last talked. You've sort of been working on this a little while across the season, Corey, but your first time getting a podium for the Master Foods AAR team, how's it feel?
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
Pretty hot, as in you're getting a bit sweaty in the seat, or is it just a bit warm where you're at right now?
Yeah, probably shouldn't have raced in basically a human blanket, so I'm pretty steamy.
Fair enough. I've been there before, but yeah, no. Outside of that, look, you had a pretty not terrible run in the first race, but race 2 you really picked it up in qualifying and you took it from there. You want to talk us through it?
Yeah, race 1 was a bit of a schmozzle. Accidentally started on tyres I'd been doing burnouts on in the warm up, which was not ideal, and pitted on first lap or safety car, and then as I was coming through the field, I was tucked in behind someone. They seemed to brake pretty early and shit myself, and nailed them in the back, and that was that. And then the second race was pretty much just keep the tyres under the car and keep Will behind till he had his failure of some sort.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, you make it sound like that was pretty smooth sailing then.
Yeah, that was pretty chill.
Awesome. Well, yeah, good haul of points for you. You've sort of had a bit of a topsy-turvy season. You haven't maybe able to make it to quite all the rounds, but at the same time, a really good reward for effort getting your first podium here tonight, and a good haul of points for yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, good, mate, and hopefully we'll see you again during at some point in the rest of the season.
I am sure I'll be back at some point.
Awesome. Thanks for chatting to us, Corey. Alrighty, I'll swing across now to Kurt Stenberg. Stenny, it's a bit of an interesting way the night's turned out for you, but in the end, a pretty solid result getting onto the podium.
Yeah, we'll take third after the night we had. It sucks. I feel like race 1, like I know we were in P2, but we had the opportunity to be able to win that race, and then a hardware failure took it away from us. I lost throttle to 80%, and an AMS, you can't really do much to reset your throttle mid-race because if you unplug your pedals, you're gone. So I just had to race on with it. So pitting wasn't an option. And then, that race, I felt like I qualified well. I got a mega start again, tried to go in the outside of Luke, got on the marbles, looped it myself, and basically spent the rest of the race trying to recover track position. And not sure what happened to Will at the end, but we slipped onto the podium. So I can't complain at that. It's a reward for a rather disappointing night by my own standards, really.
Yeah, I mean the back end of that, I suppose, especially once Will's issue popped up, you had Lewis Wedding running you pretty hard there for the last podium spot. Did you ever feel like you were seriously in trouble?
I must admit, on the last lap I did. I tried to look after my tyres. I got past him and I thought, I'm just going to sit here, look after my tyres. I'm never going to catch the guys in front, so we'll just sit here and see where it goes. But then I thought, I'm actually at threat here, and I actually had to push a little bit. So, and then he had a fairly big go to overtake me, but I had just enough left to get it over him. But yeah, I got to hand it to I don't know what they call their team at the minute.
Pixel Sim Sports.
Pixel Sim Sports. I know they were the has-beens, but I got to give it to Brendan Ross and Lewis Wedding tonight. They drove exceptionally, and they had mega pace. They were serious contenders. So it's good to see. I hope it continues.
Absolutely, and look, it's a pretty good drive, all things considered. I mean, stuff beyond your control in the first race, you still made the best of it, and in the end, as we're looking at the math at the moment, you have managed to pick up the championship lead as well. So you will be carrying the orange numbers at least as things sit right now before penalties coming into the next round as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. I mean, that was the goal tonight, but it happened in an odd way because race 1. Literally the whole point was to keep circulating, get something out of it so that we could have a chance. But yeah, that's what happens. You never know when misfortune's going to strike, and it hit both of us in opposing races, and I've come out the betterment of it. But it's not the way you want to do it, but you take what you get.
Absolutely, mate. No, it's just so a good run for you there in race 2, and what's your thoughts on the next track on the calendar, Townsville?
Oh, I love Townsville. It's it probably is my favourite track on the calendar. So I look forward to getting there. Last year, I think I did pretty well there. So yeah, should be good. Hopefully, we can actually win some races there.
Absolutely. Alrighty, mate. Great work tonight, and we'll catch you again in a few weeks.
Catch you there.
And finally, race winner and round winner. I think actually clean sweep as well, because you qualified at the top both times as well. Luke Roselle, a bit of an easier run for you in the second race without the Pixel Sim Sports cars in the way.
Yeah, certainly was ready. No, it's good. Tyre life was, exceptional. Car pace was exceptional. It was pretty smooth sailing.
Well, we'll widen the question a bit here, because I think it's been a first time in a little while actually that I can remember having seen all three of the AAR cars on track. How do you feel the team went tonight?
Oh, they all did really well. Lucky, both Hans and Lockie got a bit unlucky in the first race. And Lockie as well got a bit unlucky in this race as well. He got stuck behind traffic and couldn't really show his true pace. But Hans did pretty well. He got to 5th place, which is good for the team points. And Corey certainly did a valiant effort today. His pace was really good, and he was able to hold off Devonish for 2nd place. So it was a really good job by him, and it was a good salute from me and him, because we're both on holiday, so we spent today boarding up a pretty good dock. So that was a good salute for our works today at the end of the formation finish. But it was really good. It was good fun.
Awesome. And then looking at the next round, Townsville for the 200k race. What's your thoughts?
Townsville was pretty happy hunting ground for me. I like the track. It's I go pretty well around there. But I think the setup we used last year wasn't really that up to scratch. So we'll do a bit of homework before that and see where we end up. It'll be good.
Awesome. Great work tonight, mate. And I think in the end, that's starting to bring you a little closer in touch in the points. Obviously, you got a bit of a way to go to catch up to the likes of Kurt and Will. But again, after the start of the season, it's still a good haul of points.
Yeah, I think the championship fight's probably out the window at this point after that DQ, and we missed a couple of rounds. But we'll keep pressing on. We'll try to win as much races as we can, and we'll just have some fun. It'll be good.
Awesome. Good to chat to you tonight, Luke. Great work on the clean sweep, and we'll catch you again in a few weeks' time.
Thanks, Freddie.
And that has been our podium from race 2. Back to you, Nether.
Thanks, buddy. And Beyond Electrical podium, with thanks to them and, of course, with CRE Electrical for their sponsorship this year. It's been great having them on board. Same way we had Smith & Sons on board last year as the primary title sponsor. They've still got some trackside signage and things as well. And you saw during the little break that we had in the middle of the broadcast that we wouldn't be able to put some of these on without their sponsorship and their help. So thanks very much to those guys as well. Just having a look at the provisional point standings, we had predicted that Kurt Stenberg would take over the lead of the point standings, and he has. So it's a 21-point swing tonight. It was 9 points Will Devonish's favour at the beginning of the night. Provisionally, it is now 12 points in favour of Kurt Stenberg. And ironically, Roddy, we did say we were actually doing the math at the beginning of the night with this, and before tonight, the worst round for both drivers was their opening round at Albert Park. They had that was what we were predicting at the current point in time would be their drop round if the season ended today. That just changed. Now they're both going to be dropping Queensland Raceway. Importantly, though, Kurt Stenberg's going to drop more points than what Will Devonish has. So it basically would, if the season ended today, it would balance out in a different way. Stenberg would drop more points than Devonish, and Devonish would actually be back to the top of the standings. But there's a long way to go.
There is, yeah. It's really good running from guys tonight. I like Luke, the Pixel Sim Sports guys. They've spent the entire season selling themselves short, but tonight they're really cracked into something. Look, combined also, Will's results has put him out of has definitely hurt him in the driver's points, but it sort of balanced out to the point where they're kind of almost going to fall back to where the points were before the night with the drop round included. What it does mean, though, on the team's points is that there is now a 160 odd point lead to Pixel Sim Sports in the team's points, due to Will's near enough to a non-finish in the second race. And Will and Tomo got a bit of work to do to try and rein that back in now.
Yeah, and that was an 8-point advantage in favour of CRE Race Engineering at the beginning of the night, and it's now a 166-point advantage in terms of Pixel Sim Sports. So you do the math there, it's a 174-point swing in a single night of racing. It's a big swing. And it's still a long way to go. And I don't know how we go about with the points about teams dropping a round, but I don't believe that's how it happens. I think it's the drop rounds only in the driver's side, but we'll have to.
I believe so.
Yeah, so we'll have to figure that one out when we actually get to that stage. But still a long way to go. The next stop on the calendar is Townsville, and we're pleased to say as well it's actually going to be the Indigenous round. It was meant to be this round, of course, with a late track change and all. There's been a number of drivers that have done up some liveries. We don't want them to go to waste, so we will have a number of newly liveried cars taking to the track for the next round in 3 weeks' time. We hope that we join you then. On behalf of Rody and myself, drive safe, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.